Things are heating up for our fourth and final day of the Fixed Ops Roundtable Summer Palooza event. The grill is on and we're cooking up another flavorful event. Here to welcome us to the Fixed Ops Family Barbecue is our host, Vanessa Collins.
Good morning. I'm Vanessa Collins from Northwood University. This backyard barbecue is heating up for our final day of our event. So grab some seconds and some dessert too as we dig in to the Fixed Ops Roundtable's Summer Palooza event. Join us by the campfire and interact some more with the Fixed Ops Roundtable by using the chat feature on the right-hand side of your screen. Just be sure to select everyone and not just hosts and panelists. From internships to interviews, join our own Katrina Ness as we hear from Sandy Angelo, dealer operator at Pohanka Auto Group, in our next segment.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Sandy Angelo is with us. Also, our own Katrina Ness from Northwood University. Sandy, as many of you know, is the vice president and dealer operator at the Pohanka Automotive Group, a great friend of the industry. Sandy, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thanks for having me.
Sandy, if it's okay, I have heard so much about the Pohanka organization, so much about you. Katrina's been talking about it. She just completed an internship over the summer. And before we get to that, give us some background for folks in the audience who may not know your story, how you got started in retail, and maybe frame that all within the Pohanka organization with 100+ years of Pohanka in business.
So you said it. I've only been with Pohanka. I started when I was 15, answering a switchboard, a real old-fashioned switchboard where you pull out and put it in another. But I started at 15. When I was 17, the finance manager broke his arm. No one would help him, so I volunteered to help him. So eventually I learned his job. When I turned 18 and was able to legally sign a contract, I started working in the finance department. So all through college, I would be at the University of Maryland at 8 o'clock in the morning, at Pohanka at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, sometimes there till 1 in the morning and back at school. So I basically was full-time student, full-time working. From finance, I was promoted to sales manager, new cars, used cars. Unfortunately, I never worked in the fixed op department, although I oversaw it for many years. By the time I was 26, I was general manager of 6 stores. So I had a lot to do with service and parts at that point. But I opened the first Saturn store in the DC area, which doesn't exist anymore, but it was a big deal back then. I think that was in 89. When I was 29, I was given the opportunity to open the first Lexus dealership in the DC area. So I moved out to Chantilly, opened Lexus. At one point, our Acura store next door was failing miserably, losing money. So I took over Acura. We took it to not only number one in the state, but number one in the country, which it still remains today. And let's see, at the age of 39, I had the opportunity to buy into these stores in Salisbury, Maryland. So I currently have 9 rooftops, 13 different manufacturers. In Maryland, in Salisbury, it's all on one strip. We've taken it from selling maybe 100 cars a month and 150 employees to 1,000 cars a month and 600 employees. And that's been over the last 25 years. So,
and Sandy, you're also known, Katrina tells me about your community involvement, second to none. You sit on a lot of boards. Tell us a little bit about that and why you choose to give back.
Absolutely. I 100% believe in giving back. That's number one in my book. So we actually grew the business one deal at a time through networking, sponsorships, board participations. I see behind me all these folders. A lot of them are boards that I sit on so I can stay organized. But I started the Pohanka Pays It Forward program during the recession in 2009. And most of the businesses, that's the first thing they stopped doing is giving to the charities. So I wanted to make sure that they kept going. And my goal really was to never say no to anything the community needed, the charities needed. In fact, I had a guy from Parks and Recs call me today and say they needed uniforms for at-risk basketball youth program they were doing. And I'm like, absolutely, no problem. So what goes around comes around. We have a Road to Recovery with American Cancer Society. We provide the vehicles, we provide the drivers for anybody who can't get to chemo or get to their doctor appointment. So basically, it's the community that we live and work and raise our families in. So we want to make it the best we can.
And Sandy, you've not only that, but you've, on an individual basis, you've helped and mentored many people. And I've looked back on social media just the last couple of years, internships like Katrina has had this summer. You've done that for quite a while. Why is it important? Why do you believe in that robust and passionate pipeline to bring people into our industry?
Well, it's twofold. So I not only mentor people within our industry, but a lot of the at-risk in our community. And it's amazing how one person can make such a difference in a young person's life. I had a young girl years ago. I still help her. I'm still helping her with her college tuition. But when I first met her, she walked into my office raising money so she could go to one of the camps that she was invited to for her grades, and I don't remember what it was, but that was like 12 years ago, and she's 22, I think now, but she's done great, and I don't think she would have had the opportunities that she's had someone not stepped in and helped her. But I believe the more you give to your employees, the more that they give back to you, and to the community themselves. We try and get them involved in as much as we can. But Mr. Pohanka taught me so much as a young girl, and I think the lessons I learned from him were invaluable still to this day. And I've hoped that I've had the same impact on our employees.
Katrina, 2 questions for you. First, how did you meet? I know part of the Northwood experience is networking. I see you've already have been working at that. Okay. And number 2, what kind of impact did the internship have on you?
Of course. So Sandy and I met at NADA. Northwood had like a award breakfast, and Sandy was nominated for that. And every year the school selects speakers to present these awards. So I presented Sandy's award, and we met, and she offered me an internship, and I accepted it. So that's how we met. And then I spent the summer in Salisbury, where I worked at the dealerships. And that was beyond amazing. I learned so much. Everyone was so welcoming. I still am talking to people from the dealerships, of course, to this day, and texting them. Some of them are my closest friends, and I can see that being like that for a while. And I just learned a lot. I'm in automotive classes currently at the university, so it's very unique to be able to tie what I learned over the summer back into everything in class, and I'm absorbing it so much more as well. So it feels more valuable.
Sandy, you didn't have just one intern, you had several. Talk to us about that. And how does that internship opportunity contribute to career advancement for people like Katrina and make them more competitive?
So when I first came to Salisbury, it was really hard to find talent. We had a serious, what they call brain drain problem. The kids would come here to the university and then go back home and find jobs. So I got involved early on with the business school and sat on the Dean's Advisory Council, got involved, they actually started a sales program. What do I want to say? It's not a main curriculum, but anyway. So we got involved with the sales program, started getting a lot of the interns from that program. We are now actually the main business that they're going to be selling business to business, from our commercial sales department to trucking companies that need trucks. So starting in the spring, all of our employees will be very involved, not only with judging like I used to do, but actually playing an active part in being the buyer in that situation. So, but we've been doing that for a while. A lot of young interns that have worked their way through the organization. I actually have 2 general managers now that started in as interns from Salisbury University. But I think a pipeline of young, intelligent, hardworking people is the lifeblood of any organization. As employees retire, relocate, leave for any reason, we need to constantly be prepared to replace them with a great bench strength. So we're always looking, we're always hiring, we're always mentoring, whatever it takes.
I was going to ask you today about, how can female leaders make a positive impact in our industry? And you corrected me in the green room. You said, well, you never really saw yourself as a female leader. Tell us about that. I think it's fascinating.
So, I mean, I was always competing with men, basically. They used to ask me when I was young, and Jackie Cooper was a big sales trainer.
Jackie Cooper, yeah, sure.
And he'd bring me up on stage and say, how are you doing it? How are you managing all these guys? And I'm like, you know what? If you're willing to take the responsibility, they'll give it to you. No one's ever said, no, you can't do that. You're a woman. But I do believe that women can bring a softer side to the business, the understanding, compassion, even intuition. I think in times of servant leadership that everyone talks about, women get it probably, and we're more patient and understanding with both customers and employees. Yeah. And for women, being able to sustain the car business, because once you have children, it's hard to balance that work life. I've always been very flexible with work hours. Like in our finance departments, instead of having one finance manager working 12, 14-hour days, I let 2 do the same job. So they might work 3 days on, 4 days off, 4 days on, 3 days off. So it gives them the flexibility to still get the job done. And I might have 2 instead of 1, but it works. It works for us, and it always has.
In the last couple of years, maybe the last 5 years, maybe 10 years, we're starting to hear the word culture now, the importance of culture at the dealership. And I know years ago, we didn't hear that word, Sandy. There was very little of culture spoken. What advice do you have for dealerships who want to grow more leaders, men and women, within their organizations?
So a lot of training, whole lot of communication. We actually co-developed a 3-day leadership program, and I'm sorry Katrina wasn't able to attend it, but it is life-changing. And one of the things that people always say is it's a cult, you're drinking the Kool-Aid, but what the instructor says at the end, cult really stands for culture. And what Pohanka is doing is establishing a culture where we care about everyone. So it's not just about this is how you become a leader. It's how to understand yourself and how to understand each other and to build an incredible team. So I have 9 stores instead of silos of 9 different dealerships. I have one team that works together no matter what the problem is in what store. They're all willing to help each other. And part of that comes from that culture that we develop. But there's so many things. The NADA Academy, we do an in-house 20 group that just teaches everybody that it's possible. I have all of our dealership numbers on the wall, and Katrina will tell you that we don't hide anything. You know, we hire managers from other dealerships. They're like, oh, we never were able to see the financial statements or had no idea, but ours is right there for everyone to see. So everyone can be part of it. And we do a board mapping where they come in and set their objectives every month, and the whole team comes up together. So it's not just sales or service or parts, it's all of them, and they bring team members so that everybody is part of it. I used to have meetings and all the top level managers, but they would never get the information down to the troops. It would stay with them. So I was like, I'm gonna communicate to everybody at once. And it really was powerful. At the time, I didn't even realize how powerful it would be. But that board has made a huge difference in everybody buying in. So I hope that answered the question. But
It does. Katrina, you've told me many times that if you want to become a leader, you're not going to get that by reading a book. You're going to get that by going out and doing. Okay. So tell us about the internship. Where did Sandy have you working in the dealership? Was it just in one area? Did you get a chance to sample a lot of different parts of working in a dealership? And what was that like this summer?
Yeah, so I did a rotational internship. So I spent like a week to 2 weeks in each department, started in accounting and ended it in like general management and like administration. And Sandy touched on it a little bit with like board mapping and stuff, but that was one of my favorite parts to sit in. And I love the company culture of that aspect where everyone has access to the numbers, and it really like, I think pushes people individually to want to do better, and also fosters friendly competition between each individual and each store as well. So I love that part about the company culture, but I just got to learn about every aspect and every different department. And so when I'm coming back to school now and I have classes on each individual part of the dealership, I know about it now.
And I heard you got to experience the dealership a little differently. There were some things that happened this year in the automotive industry, I think back in June, okay? And you got to experience what it was like maybe some years back before we had computers and iPads and DMSs and a lot of the real world things that we've encountered that happen along the way.
Yeah, I mean, when your main software system shuts down, what do you do? And like, that's really what I got to learn. I was in the service lane at that point. So all the ROs were handwritten, and it really, what I learned from that is adaptability. Like, you never know what's going to happen. The power could go out, the software could shut down, and, you know, there's only situations like this coming more often now. So it's like, we all have to know how to adapt to that and make changes for the future. So something like that can't happen again, won't happen again, or we can have better solutions in order to fix that in the future. But the issue we're talking about, that was a big part of the summer and a big talk that I heard at the dealerships.
Sure. It's real world.
It is real world.
Sandy, last question, if I can, for today. So you got a lot of your peers watching today from all over the country, fellow dealers, people in all different positions at the dealership. We've also got some folks watching at Northwood University and in class. And if I had to ask you, what advice would you give incoming students or recent graduates or people thinking about getting involved in the retail automotive business at this time, based on your career and what you've done, what advice would you give them right now?
So my advice to the students is to learn all you can. The automobile industry is the most dynamic, ever-changing, amazing business to be in. There's no ceiling on how far you can go, as you can see from what I did. But I would say always be willing to work harder than anybody else. I believed in the relentless pursuit of excellence. Always be innovating. If the world is changing faster than you are, you're in trouble. Use your critical thinking skills. communicate effectively, and never stop learning and growing. So in communicating, I think I told Katrina this, remember that negative feedback is more or as important as positive feedback. So many young people are afraid of that negative feedback, but people don't know what they don't know. So I say, make sure that's part of teaching and mentoring, let them know what they're doing wrong. So mean what you say and don't be mean when you say it. But the future is yours to drive and make it incredible.
Super. Great message, Sandy. You picked a really good intern this year. Okay.
She was amazing. So Katrina, because of Katrina, normally the kids coming in from SU, they just come in for one job. They either come into marketing, they come into sales, but actually Katrina had shown me other companies out there that were doing the whole process. So it helped me develop the program that we made for her. But now Katrina knows what she likes and doesn't like. She's already got a good understanding and could probably walk right into the dealership and start as a finance manager if she wanted to. So it was an incredible program. I know she learned a lot. She learned every bit of this business. So it was amazing. And I thank you for that.
Thank you for that.
Well, congratulations to both of you, Katrina Ness at Northwood University, Sandy Angelo, the Vice President and Dealer Operator at Pohanka Automotive Group. Thank you so much, ladies, for what you do for the industry. And on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, we're very grateful to have you both here today.
Thank you so much.
Head back to Northwood University with us as we serve up an exclusive interview with Dynatron up next.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. We are at Northwood University right now with the Dynatron panel. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, hi, I'm James Grogan, Senior Vice President of Dynatron Software.
Shon from the Kaiser Automotive Group out of Madison, Wisconsin.
Hi, Kent MacDonald. I'm President here at Northwood University.
Hi, I'm Maureen Martin, Vice President of Strategic Alliances for Dynatron Software.
Everybody, thank you for being here. Our panel is about how to stand out in the job market. What great timing on this, and the importance of fixed ops education. So President MacDonald, if I can come to you on the first one, what strategies do universities like Northwood University use to enhance student interest in automotive related programs to ensure successful futures in our industry?
Yeah, so Northwood is a a benefactor of being in this industry for 5 decades. So we have a great reputation. You go across the country, you're going to run into people who have been at Northwood, who have hired Northwood people. Our strategy is really simple. When you speak to students today and you ask, what are you looking for out of a university experience, they're really clear. They want a job. And I think the first thing we do is just the whole experiential learning here at Northwood. We have them involved in North America's largest outdoor auto show. They run that for us. Experiential learning, everything we know about learning tells us what happens in the classroom is important, but where real learning takes place is out on the front line. So we try to provide great learning opportunities, experiences for our students, and through that they meet people, they get build up relationships. And I can tell you, through the winter, we have many, literally dozens and dozens of employers on this campus looking to hire Northwood students. So we're proud of our students, proud of our faculty, and our great reputation of supporting this amazing industry.
And I think that's a great differentiator that you have at Northwood, because you really are focused on that, and the faculty and the students are focused on that. They know they're going to go into the automotive industry, not just any industry, but they're very intentional about it.
They are, our students. The other thing, look, we're known as America's free enterprise university. We are unequivocal of our support of the importance of capitalism and free enterprise. Our students believe that, and when they graduate, they want to go out either on their own, start a company, of which a third of our graduates own their own company, or join another company in industry and help them make money, and we're proud of that.
Yeah, so Maureen, on the topic of education, I have a question for you. So in what ways does continuing education post-grad contribute to career advancement and competitiveness in the automotive industry, and specifically in fixed operations?
You know, we had such a privilege to do the roundtable with the students today, and it was mind-blowing how much they are thinking forward in the industry. And authentically, that's what we talked about. We talked about that this industry has a place for everyone and embraces everyone. You know, automotive is the largest tight-knit community, and you can see that in the students and the chaperones that were working with them, and just hearing about that it didn't matter. You could be in advertising, marketing, finance, and they incorporate that into the auto show, which I thought was really incredible. And to have it 100% student-led, it was really amazing. But I think at the end of the day, it's about being a lifetime learner. You never really stop learning. We talked about, those of us that have been around a few years in the business, that we didn't grow up in technology. And like those students now, they're really technology forward, and now it's really balancing by getting out of your comfort zone and trying new things, getting involved in organizations, getting out there and finding opportunities for yourself that you authentically want to do. And to reach out, that everyone is here as a part of this today at Northwood, because we really believe in the future. It's dynamic, we're passionate about it, and we want them to be a part of it. So, you know, my background's a little unique. I have OEM, I have owned my own company, and I've been on the SaaS technology side. So the students at my table were like, wow, I'd never thought of it. I thought I might come in just one path, and that was my path. And really, your path is really whatever you want to make it. So I find that to really be something that is important for the students today to know.
And we've talked about that there's so much growth opportunities inside the automotive industry. Like, some of our dearest friends have started from washing cars, and now they're at the top of the pyramid. So I think that's so important, and it goes along with constantly learning and adapting and growing as your own person.
You know, interestingly enough, most general managers, 98% of them in my 38 years never came up the fixed operations side of the business.
That's true.
And so they are entrepreneurial, they're super smart, they're community leaders. And so as fixed ops companies, it's really important for us to embrace them and to really work as a team for that education. And that's a big part of it.
James, what we saw here today at Northwood, this was a true roundtable, okay? With awesome. Students, incoming students considering Northwood as well. And to Maureen's point, a lot of people who run dealerships came through the sales side of the organization. I know I started off on the sales side, but they don't have the knowledge, or haven't had the education on the fixed ops side. Talk to us about Dynatron. Just a few years ago, you were working with maybe 1,000, 1,500 dealers, 3,700 dealers now. What advice can you give incoming students or recent graduates?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, number one is confidence. You know, coming out of Northwood, a great facility, a great education platform, coming into, you know, quote unquote, the real life, you know, reality of the automotive industry, having confidence in what you've learned, confidence in the things that you've been taught, and then, you know, being pliable, knowing that every day is going to be a little different. You're going to learn things that you never thought you needed to learn. You're going to do things you never thought you were going to do. But you know, the great thing about the automotive industry is, as we've all said, is you can kind of come in on one end and really make it across the whole spectrum and realize the career you love and have passion for is really something different than you even thought it was. And you know, the automotive industry, I think, is very independent in itself, that people come in with this idea of, okay, I want to do X. And then once they start doing it, really what it is it's why that they find is the passion, and then that's where their career is. And I think from talking to those students today, you know, they all had an idea, and it would be great to see them coming to Northwood and then going on into their careers, how that idea and that passion grows.
President MacDonald, it really is different here at Northwood. We see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm glad, you know, look, I get paid to say nice things, but you just have to spend time on this campus and take time with our students. And look, anybody who says young people today don't care, they're not, you just have to spend time at Northwood. And this is a unique environment. We attract special kids here who go out and I think make a real difference. And I absolutely agree, your comment on confidence. You just shake their hand, they look you in the eye, they carry on a conversation. And you know, you don't learn that in a book. And so I really appreciate that comment.
Yeah, I think, you know, going through maybe, I don't want to say a normal degree, but going somewhere else, you learn the book stuff.
Yeah.
But the hands-on stuff that, you know, we've been able to kind of hear about and that you guys do here, I think is what builds them to where when they do walk into that first job opportunity, the confidence, but then also the personnel skills, all the things that you guys have groomed here. I mean, to me, that's what sets them. That's what sets them apart.
They love this industry. They love the industry. Yeah.
Yeah, and so on the topic of education and again, growth, Shon, I have a question for you. What types of career advancement opportunities exist for students entering fixed operation departments?
You know, everybody's got a story and how they got started in the business. And you know, mine was fresh out of the Marine Corps. Spent 2 years in a cast. I was in a cast when I got hired at a dealership, and I started as a service writer and worked my way up to service manager, fixed ops manager, fixed ops director. Became a general manager, and then ultimately came back to fixed ops because this is my passion. I don't know anywhere that you can have the opportunity, and now it gets talked about. And I know sitting in the roundtables today, I think everybody brought the same thing up, that I don't know any industry that you can start, and I have a college education in firefighting, which has nothing to do with this, okay? I didn't have the Northwood opportunity that they have here, and to say that the students were impressive is an understatement by far, what we saw here today. But as far as advancement opportunity, where do you want to go? Do you want to fix cars? Do you want to be, you have a ton of kids down there who want to be engineers. Yeah. And that's something 10 years ago you never would have heard. And that's their passion, that's their gig. They want to build cars, they want to invent things. And the opportunities, where do you want to go, which direction, and the money you can make. I mean, it's unreal.
Yeah.
And President MacDonald, this is a great example of future employers. You've got Shon Kingrey on the retail side with 8 rooftops in Wisconsin, all domestic dealerships, and the Dynatron folks here on the vendor, on the partner side. You know, what great opportunities they are afforded by the folks that are graduating here.
Yeah, there's just tremendous opportunities. And look, we invite all the employers, people who are interested in this industry to come visit us, speak to the students, speak with our faculty. And I didn't know you were in the Marines. Thanks for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody, we are at Midland, Michigan. We are at Northwood University. We have a lot more coming up. Please stay with us, and we're going to be right back.
Opportunities for revenue growth are out there, and they're closer than you think. The problem is most service departments lack the time, software, and data to see these opportunities. They're in the dark. That's where we come in. We help shed light on revenue growth opportunities hidden within your data. Dynatron gives you the tools, coaching, and knowledge to maximize your service department revenue. From optimizing labor rates on maintenance and repairs to helping with manufacturer warranty labor rate and parts markup, our training and software gets you the most from your data. We illuminate these revenue opportunities with 3 fundamental solutions powered by our ROI suite and expert coaching. Price Smart. Our Price Smart solution drives additional revenue through price optimization. Charging the perfect price for services maximizes revenue while maintaining retention. Pricing compliance. Holding service advisors and technicians accountable to avoid costly mistakes that can lead to significant ELR and retention erosion. And parts and labor warranty filing. Price optimization and compliance prior to filing maximizes the process, which leads to larger revenue opportunities. Where other companies just file, we maximize and file. Sell Smart. Our Sell Smart solution is a customized, dealer-specific, technology-enabled sales training program for your service advisors and management team. It focuses on improving each advisor's revenue-generating potential with continuous improvement. Small but consistent changes add up to big results. Market Smart. With Dynatron's Market Smart solution, we analyze your service department data to develop custom, multi-channel marketing campaigns that target existing and new customers. We guide additional traffic to your service drive, resulting in tangible ROI. Powering these solutions is our ROI suite and expert coaching. We take your repair order data, process it through our proprietary algorithms, curate new data, and combine to find new insights. Then, our expert coaches guide you through our proven turnkey process to discover new opportunities and deliver results, ultimately seeing a 5x to 15x ROI each year you partner with Dynatron. Managing your service department is hard enough. You don't need another vendor. You need a long-term partner. Don't stay in the dark. Accelerate your service department revenue today. Visit DynatronSoftware.com.
Hello, my name is Nikhil Kalani, Chief Information Security Officer at Proton Dealership IT and Cybersecurity. We recently opened a brand new Security Operations Center here in our Dayton, Ohio headquarters. This center is a substantial upgrade for constant monitoring of suspicious activity on our customer systems. On-site professionals analyze the cyber landscape, the techniques criminals are using, and monitor the signals received by our tools. Our new Security Operations Center will elevate monitoring and response to a whole new level, keeping you safer than ever before. If you'd like to learn more about what Proton can do for you, let's talk.
Keep your spot at the picnic table and learn how to retain your experienced techs with our next panel.
Everybody, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. We have an A-list all-star panel today discussing retaining experienced and senior technicians. On the panel today is Billy Milone from the Bob King Automotive Group, Shon Kingrey from the Kaiser Automotive Group, David Vallone from Vallone Consulting, Don Andres, who has a company called Auto SCT Consulting and Training and has just authored a new book as well, and Tom Druzynski, who's Director of Service Operations at the Woessner Automotive Group. Gentlemen, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. All right, retaining experienced technicians, shall I say, we all know it's crucial for the industry. They bring valuable knowledge and skills. Today, I want to talk about several strategies that you may be using to retain older technicians. And Tom, I want to start with you if it's okay. Tom, how do you at Woessner recognize and value experience?
So I think first, Ted, my opinion, you have to first be able to identify those technicians and do it for everybody, right? So this is becoming a more popular thing in our business, but think about service advisors, salespeople, their names are on their desk, right? Service technicians, if their names are not on their bay, hanging high in the rafters with their years of experience, their levels of certifications, I think you're missing out. First, make them somebody. and make it so that anybody that walks in that shop can look up and see that, hey, that's a master technician. I'm going to go over and see Billy over here and ask him a quick question, and they can approach that person by name, right? That the level of experience that those technician brings, it's something that you just cannot replace. It's not easily replaceable. There are technicians that retire and knowledge leaves with them that there's nobody else in that shop that's ever going to have that knowledge again, right? So not having a path and not being able to do something a little bit different for those technicians. Some of your senior master technicians, think about things like Saturdays, right? Allowing them to work a regular schedule, not worrying about late nights, not worrying about Saturdays. For the most part, and maybe this is just my opinion, Saturdays, typically you're doing the work that your competitors are going to take away from you, right? The local tire shops, those sort of things. That's the work that my team wants to do on Saturdays, not transmission diagnosis and deep electrical and those sort of things. So, having some different work schedules, some different things for your technicians to be able to work their way into is a great thing. But again, it just starts with recognizing and putting out there for everybody to see exactly who those super talented and super high level training technicians are.
Tom, I know you oversee a lot of rooftops at Woessner. I don't know if you know the exact number or even an approximate number, but approximately how many techs under the Woessner brand there?
We're coming up on 600.
Well, okay. Shon Kingrey, you came to Madison, Wisconsin from a much larger group. And when you arrived at the Madison Kaiser Automotive Group, I know you found an older workforce. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so thank you, Ted. So when you go to any of our stores, and Ted, you visited a couple of them now, there's all these plaques of all these 30 or 20, 30, and 40-year employees. They're everywhere. I mean, there's so much that it fills up all the wall space.
Yes.
But for those of us that have been in the business a long time, that's scary too, because if you haven't done a good job, and I'll be very candid, they hadn't done a good job starting to mentor and grow and have a grow your own kind of a mentality, those people are going to retire. And if you've also had it, and we are not union, one of our stores used to be, if there's a union mentality in the shop where they don't want to train the young ones and you don't have the right mentor to train them, it doesn't work. And listen, the last thing you want to do is have a cancer in the shop training your young kid, because all you're going to do is train the bad habits. And I'll take what Tom said just one step further, and then I'll get off. But it's funny, and I always say you got to find out what makes them tick. You got to find out, out of the store I'm in right now, 68 technicians. You need to find out which techs need a hug every day and which techs you don't want to talk to every day. And they're out there, guys. There's some techs, if you talk to them, they think they're in trouble. There's other techs, if you walk by because you're busy or you're on your phone or you're on your mind and you don't say hello, they think they're in trouble and you just lost a complete day of production out of them. And you have to know each store. And you're right, Ted. I went from 26 stores to 8 stores. And no matter how many stores it is, you have to know that in each store. And again, it's all about just acknowledgement. It doesn't cost anything. It costs $0 to walk through and say hello. And Ted, you and I've talked about it. And I know we've talked about it a ton of panels. That goes from the dealer principal to the general manager. Walk through the shop. Make your senior staff, make your general manager park on the back side of the shop. Make him walk through and say hello to everybody. What does it cost? It's free. It's nothing. $0. Again, one of my very, very good mentors taught me that. Listen, we had a lot of stores. He didn't do well with names. My job was to walk behind him and say, Ted, Billy, David. And I would just say the name, and that tech thinks he knew him. Guys, it's not about pay raises. It's about acknowledgement.
Tom, as a follow-up, coming back to you, I've lived near the I-90 there where your stores are located. I would imagine there's some similar situations, right? How a tech might read you walking through the shop and so on.
Absolutely. And Shon hit it on the head. You have to know your people, and you have to know the ones that need that touch and that just walk over and see how they're doing. And the more you do that, and the more you get to know about those people, I can't tell you how much it means to them. If you walk by and you go, hey, how's your mother doing? I know she wasn't doing well. How is she? Or, your daughter was in for that surgery. How's everything going? Or just those little things that you remember about those people and bringing them up and talking to them, it makes them feel like $1 million. You have to constantly make sure that your people know that they are valued as people and not just for the hours that they bring you.
Don Andres, I know you overseen some very big dealer groups in mid-America. You just authored a book, Why Auto Service Departments Fail to Grow. Give us your perspective on valuing that experience.
I think it's everything. In fact, when they start talking about retirement, you have to jump in and really be proactive about rethinking the model for them, and that could be on a very individual basis. And it really comes down to productivity. All you have to do is fill your shop with young technicians and see them lose their mind trying to diagnose difficult problems, right? They want that high productivity. They want to move off of something fast. And so losing your shirt on trying to figure out some kind of data bus line issue and things of that nature, where these experienced guys can get very quickly into the true area that they feel is the failure. So, I want to hang on to them as long as possible, because exactly what Shon said, you've got to grow them, but they can't do the work for them. You can't just say, look, I'm going to pay you differently. I'm going to give you all the difficult cars and let you be in the corner and do that. No, you need to have the young guys have that difficult diagnosis. And then you've got to bring that veteran technician in and really show them, here's what I've learned. Here's what this symptom typically is going to send you down this path. And then have them do that together. So yeah, you're going to be creative in the way you pay them. You're going to not necessarily beat them up about this idea of not being productive, and instead really take full advantage and use them in that mentorship type role, even though they're both rate technicians. So creativity and talking them out of retirement, because let's face it, it does wear on their bodies, and some of that can really play into a factor with a senior technician.
You bet. Billy Milone, let me come to you. How do you recognize and value that experience in the senior techs?
Well, I do what pretty much Shon said it, Don, Tom, they all said it. It's value the employee as a person. Most technicians, I know years ago, it's been like techs are techs, grease monkeys. Nobody appreciated them. So if you walk through, you're laughing, Don, Shon, I see that. But you walk through the shop, like you said, I mean, I do that every day. Even as a fixed ops director or corporate service director, either way, when I go to each shop, I will go by each technician and I'll say, hey, what's going on? How's everything? And remember, if something happened to their mom, something happened in their family, make them feel valued. And I think, Shon, you said it, Tom might have said it, it's not all about the pay. It's all about making them feel valued, because, they're in the back of the shop. Nobody goes to see them. What I do is I make sure that if we hire a new employee, or even salespeople, sales managers, come meet the technicians, come talk to the technicians, have a relationship with the technicians to build that culture where they feel appreciated. And when you're talking about these younger techs that are getting mentored by these senior techs, yeah, we have to make it worth it for the senior tech to do so. But, put in a program in place that actually says, here's the career path for the younger tech. Here's what we need to do. Here's what you need to do to get to those steps. And this senior tech that's been here for 32 years is going to show you how to do that. And that makes the senior tech feel important as well. Now, as far as retirement, I think Shon said it. I mean, sometimes it is what it is. They're going to retire. You don't want them to. And you're right, Tom. I think you said it. You're never going to get that value back. No matter how much you put into that young tech, you're still just not going to get that experience, because we can't give them 10, 15 years experience. We can show them the path, and we can make them feel valued. And it's not all about the pay. It's all about, how do I feel? I just had a tech yesterday tell me that, thinking about going for the money, how technicians go for the money. Okay, well, here's what's going to happen. And you have a conversation, and he came back the next day and he said, you know what? I'm not going to go after the money. I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to do whatever I need to do to learn how to be a certified master tech. And to me, that's like, oh my God, that's finally somebody's got it. But if we don't put that time into it and we don't make them feel valued, you'll never get that.
Great points, Billy. Thank you. David Vallone, your thoughts on recognizing value and experience in the shop?
First, I think those are all great real life, day-to-day examples of things that we should be doing in all of our stores, right? I kind of look at this, there's, three main pillars, right? So first is we have to have competitive compensation incentives. Our pay scale should be experience-based, ensure that the compensation levels are reflecting levels of experience and expertise of the technician. There should be regular review of the pay scales to make sure that they're competitive within the industry in your local markets. But that's important. Bonuses and incentives are also part of that. Introducing performance-based bonuses that are tied to experience. Or, for example, if you've got experienced technicians in the shop, maybe coming up with some sort of a bonus plan that's based on efficiency, customer satisfaction. It doesn't have to be the same for everyone because, all these technicians are in different stages of development. The second, there needs to be opportunities for career advancement and leadership. So that entails having some sort of a clear career pathway so we can establish and communicate that clear career progression opportunity to our technicians to advance them based on their experience, skills, and desires. Not everybody desires to be the same thing, right? So this could include roles like senior technician, master technician, shop supervisor. Obviously you can be creative in that, but it needs to be spelled out. And it needs to include some form of leadership roles. We want to encourage our experienced technicians to take on leadership and mentorship roles, right? This can involve leading a team, could involve training just a new junior technician, or even something as simple as participating in decision-making processes, right? They've got great input. They know what is going on in the shop better than the manager does. So including them on those decision-making processes are a huge step in the right direction. And then third is just public recognition and respect. We should have some form of a formal recognition program, such as Technician of the Month, recognizing service anniversary celebrations, inclusion in some sort of company newsletters. Obviously recognition is always going to be a powerful motivator, and it's a great way to show respect for their years of experience and their expertise. These strategies not only reward experienced technicians, but they also help to build a supportive and motivated team, which ultimately we want it to lead to better service quality and higher job satisfaction. So I think these are things that every store should have a plan on how they're going to address it and make it theirs.
Tom, over at Woessner, I want to ask you, have you done anything, because you have some out-of-the-box thinking there, anything in terms of mentorship or leadership or continuing education that you've done for the senior techs there?
All of the above, Ted. We work, and again, it's a little bit different in my scenario in that it's 40 stores, so we've got a pretty massive workforce, and I've got to look at, retiring service managers and all of those different pieces where maybe it's a little bit different in a single point. But, we have built programs. We partnered with Dale Carnegie, and we have 3 separate programs that are specific for our group that tie in our core values and the things that we want those people to learn. And we've been putting more and more technicians through those Carnegie courses. We had a leadership program that myself and my VP developed where different service managers, we would take service advisors and technicians from different stores. And throughout the course of a year, we would just stay a night or two late, have some dinner, and we would go through different topics. Everything from how to design a pay plan, different math that they've never been exposed to, dealing with factory programs and used cars. And we would go through everything with them to just kind of prep them. So I've had 2 amazing service managers come out of the shops recently, and I've got 2 more that are prepped and ready to go. And those 2 were team leader style technicians, master technicians, that it was incredibly painful to lose them from the shop. But if I don't give them that opportunity, number one, it's selfish on my part to keep them in the shop, but it's also horrendously short-sighted to not see the leadership potential that these guys had to be able to help develop that. On top of it, we do have mentorship programs where we partner incoming technicians. We have college programs that are our own and others that we support, where those technicians are assigned to these master techs. Absolutely have to pay them different. It's okay in some cases to overpay and to pay them for the work that mentor is doing. We pair those 2 together for 2 years. So they are together for 2 years. And even if that mentor or that mentee becomes flat rate and starts to turn, that mentor is still making money off of his or her apprentice. So that's something where it's okay to understand that those apprentices are going to be an expense for a period of time, but in the long run, it pays. And if you're not willing to pay your mentors to not worry about their own hours and make sure that these up and comers can do it, again, short-sighted.
Tom, I did an interview a while back with a very well-known dealer, okay, who's been in the business. His family's been in the business. His father had originally started the dealership group, and he talked to me about the knowledge transfer because now he has children who are now coming up through the dealership, and I didn't quite grasp what that meant, but that really plays into the tech real well. That knowledge transfer and being able to support that with things that you're doing.
It does. And there's those little tips and tricks that you're never ever going to learn from a book. You're never going to get it in a college program. You're only going to see it in a real world scenario. And until you've lost hours or a day handling this particular scenario, these guys and girls are going to have no idea how to approach it. So those minor things like that, or things that you would never think of, it's fantastic to be able to hand that off to somebody else.
Shon Kingrey over at Kaiser, mentorship and the knowledge transfer.
You know, it is big, and I think I'm going to go off of what Tom said. You know, he's got a 2-year program. That's a long time, guys. That's a long time to have a marriage. Let's call that what it is. And I think the key to that is what we talked about earlier, is making sure you have the right mentor with the right pupil. Okay, because again, not everybody is the best teacher in the world. Okay, you may have that grumpy old tech, but he may be the right guy to teach that pupil. You know, again, I go back to a Mercedes training I went through years and years ago, and it doesn't make a difference where you find your personality types, and it's amazing who clicks with who. You know, Ted, why do we all get along on here? Because we're all alphas. We're all A-type personalities, okay? That's automotive. But that's not what every technician is. You have to understand that, and you have to respect that. And again, and I think my new favorite line is, not everybody deserves a seat on a certain bus. Not everybody has to have a seat. It's okay that it's not a good marriage. It's not a good fit. And you got to make sure that tech has buy-in and mentoring and teaching. And, you know, if there's one thing I learned from my years of union shops is, you want to win the shop over, get the union steward on your side. Once you get that done, the rest of it's easy. The fight stops. He'll do the fighting for you, or they will do the fighting. He or she will do the fighting for you. And once you do that, the battle's easy. I mean, that, again, remove the obstacles. Whatever's in the roadblock, remove it, get it out of the way, go fast forward.
Fast forward, like it. Don Andres.
Yeah, I think young minds are easily influenced, right? If you're not marrying up somebody early on, they start drawing some big conclusions and ultimately sometimes end up leaving the business where they could have been very talented, but they get so intimidated, they lose their shirt on a particular week and things of that nature, and they start questioning if they made the right decision to be in this industry and things of that nature. And we know how difficult it is to obtain. So the idea of just having them show up and learn the ropes in the shop, as opposed to like you're talking about, truly marrying somebody up, because they're going to talk about tough days. They're going to talk about how you have to budget yourself for a whole year, that we have this busy time and then it gets a little quiet. And this calming voice is incredibly important. Shon, I think you bring up a great point. Getting the right individual, I'm sure, Tom, you figured this out as well, too. Getting the right individual with the right young person and marrying those personalities, I think, is super, super important as well, too. But I think that you have to have a purpose to grow your shop. This idea of waiting for someone to leave and then replacing them, one, it just costs you a tremendous amount of money. And two, they're unfortunately sometimes bringing in bad culture, bad attitude. So growing your own, we've all been doing it a long time, is always the formula. But you start early is I think the true, creativity that's necessary to ensure a long, good relationship with that technician.
You know, we're in a very, very competitive landscape when it comes to technicians. Shon, Kingrey, you and I have had many a discussion by phone on weekends about that as well. Tom, I imagine in your neck of the woods, Tom, it's very competitive as well. Yet you've got to maintain this focus on the senior techs and the mentorship and keep all that going at the same time. Tom, how do you balance all that, Tom?
It is difficult. I mean, it's one of those things where it is an incredibly competitive market here, you know. So, you know, our focus again on growing our own and keeping that path for the senior master technicians, making sure they've got a set of hands as they start to age out. You know, I don't want them worried about lifting tires. Have somebody with them that's going to take care of tires and take care of some of the heavier things, and you know, and save them physically. You know, look at things like mobile, right? Mobile. One of them, and I wish Ed Roberts was here to talk about a little bit about mobile, but you know, he taught me one of the most profitable things that you can do via mobile is programming. You know, because pretty much everything that you're going to do via programming is going to be at your warranty labor rate or at your retail repair rate. So your senior master techs, as one that maybe physically can't do that job anymore, for them to still be able to use their mind, do programming, do mobile diagnostic, you know, there's still an awful lot of use that they can be, and some great things that they can add to your shop if you're just a little bit creative with what you do with those people.
You know, Billy, there's been so many fixed ops roundtables and panels like this. I know, Billy, this is your first time on. Someone asked me recently, they said, who do you think gets the most out of these fixed ops roundtable, these ideas that come out of it? And I said, I think I do, because I'm sitting here taking notes of things that Don is saying, Tom is saying, David Vallone is saying, Shon. Billy, there's so much gold in these ideas that come out. What about you on the mentorship and the knowledge transfer side?
I mean, so I agree with everybody and what they said. I mean, mentorship is extremely important. And when it comes to mentoring, yes, you have to have a clear path. But I think, Shon, you did say this about the old grumpy tech, and I experienced that firsthand with an old grumpy tech and a younger tech that has probably the same experience. He just hasn't been doing it as long, and he actually happened to fall in my lap from Florida. Thank God he did. But some of the techs, I mean, he's old and grumpy. The techs that have been there know how to deal with him. Great tech, been with the company for almost 20 years, but he's just that direct person. And he's old and grumpy. He's got a beard like you, Tom. But some of the guys didn't like going to him. And then when I hired this guy, they were migrating to this other technician because his approach was different and they felt like they can go to him. So at that point, what I did is I took the two of them, the old grumpy tech and the newer tech with the same experience, and said, hey, here's what we're going to do. So I actually gave the second guy a piece of the hours and took what I do is I'll always involve my shop foreman, my lead, my mentor, and say, hey, what do you think of this? I will always involve them in any decision. I am not that guy that's going to come in and say, we're doing this because I said so. And it worked out. And he was like, fine, that's great. So then I had to get the three of them together. I mean, the two of us and three of us had a conversation, and it's been working out well. But I would always go to him first and say, what do you think about this? You know, are you okay with this? Because I'm not losing a tech that's been here 20 years because some of the technicians feel like more comfortable to go to a different technician for advice. It was just a different approach. And I think you all said it, you got to find that right balance, because if you're going to put a beginning level tech with an A tech, yeah, they have to match, because, you know, and we have to grow our own, and you don't want that new tech leaving because you don't know what his potential is yet. You could be letting that person go. Let's face it. All of us know this. If you're an A tech and you're an experienced tech, you're going to stay where you are. I would rather grow them than go out and hire them. So, you know, building relationships with the local schools, we have that. We have a mentorship program, you know, tool program, you know, compensation for the experienced techs who are going to teach the techs. But yeah, it has to match up. And firsthand, Shon, you said you just have to have that matchup. And if you don't, then you might chance losing a beginning tech that could very well be one of your star players. And Tom, you said it. I think this is probably the second time in my career that technician came to me, the second tech from Florida, said, hey, I want to be an advisor one day. What do I got to do to do that? And I was like, okay. And I have no problem teaching you. And he would probably make a good advisor, and he wants to be a manager one day. You know, going from the back to the front, now you know what the back goes through in the front, because you know some of the advisors have no idea what these technicians go through.
David, there's a lot that falls on the shoulders of the leader, isn't there?
Sure is.
Your thoughts on the mentorship and the knowledge transfer?
Ted, haven't we really? It's like the industry is getting to a point here where mentorship in the shop has gone from being, you know, a worthy goal, nice thing to achieve, to I think it's becoming mission critical, right? It's how we transfer skills and abilities to younger junior techs. And the technology curve, let's face it, it's only going to continue to steepen from here. It's certainly not going to back off. So how do we keep up with that? A mentorship program in the shop should have, I think, as an ultimate goal of really creating a collaborative work culture where all technicians feel encouraged to help each other. You know, we really do have to continue to look at the work structure. You know, are we using teams, lateral support, group systems? However we have it structured, building that collaborative work culture where everybody feels encouraged to help one another. You know, just what it does for us in terms of overall productivity, reducing turnover, and really significantly improving their personal job satisfaction. It's just a very worthy thing to go out and pursue. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time to get there and build that type of a culture. But I think because of vehicle complexity and the shortage of technicians, it's really just brought us to a point where I think it's becoming mission critical to get there.
What a great panel. We didn't even have time to get to a lot of the questions today, so I think that means we need to come back and do this again. We come back and do this again, Shon, next time we come back. I don't think the weather may be as nice in Madison as it is right now.
But it will be Green Bay Packer football season, and that makes it okay.
I know better than not to weigh it. Tom, I know you may want to weigh in on that as well. Weather coming up at the next roundtable, which will be in November.
Yeah, it's going to be brutal in Western New York, I'm sure. Although, who knows? It might be 70s. We never know. It's 70s one day, and then it's 6 feet of snow the next.
You never know.
And Tom, no plug for the Bills this time? No?
We all know who's going to win this year. It's
losers.
I don't even need to say it.
Losers.
Losers, wide right.
Nobody's talking Lions. Is that what I'm understanding?
Move on.
I want to thank the panel today, Billy Milone, David Vallone from Vallone Consulting. Thank you so much. Shon Kingrey, Kaiser Automotive Group. Don Andres, author of the new book. Tom Druzynski from the Woessner Automotive Group. Everybody, the retaining experienced and senior tech panel here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Get your dealership mobile service ready at the next Fixed Ops Roundtable pop-up event happening live at Beaux-Arts Ford Lincoln in St. Augustine, Florida. Please join us on Thursday, October 17th. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and TikTok. We'll see you soon.
Get the latest on appraisals, speed to sale, and reconditioning, all on our next panel.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. This is the Appraisals, Speed to Sale, and Reconditioning panel, all-star panel, may I add, with Shon Kingrey, Don Andres, and Nico Gara. Gentlemen, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you. Thanks for being.
Great to have you all here. And gentlemen, I want to start off by talking a little bit about the relationship between the used vehicle department and that relationship with fixed operations. Shon, I'll come to you first. We've seen a lot happening, especially in the last 3 to 4 years, in the way of service, drive, appraisals. Now, I know you've witnessed it firsthand. It has evolved. There are pros and cons. There's been a lot of discussion about it. There'll be a lot more discussion here on the roundtable. Shon, what are your thoughts? Because I know that was part of the game plan when you were in Florida as well.
It was, and thank you, Ted. And first of all, Nico Gara is on the screen, and Nico and I have worked together a lot of years. And he was on the other side of the house. He was on the variable side, the dark side, if you will. And it's funny how it's all transitioned since then. Where Nico and I, to be very honest, we've seen it work. And I can get on I'll get on my soapbox here and go to the thing, and we can talk about this. That guys, we know what vehicle's coming in our shop a week or two in advance. All right, we know what's coming in. We know the mileage and we know the history on it. Okay. And there was somebody, I'll give him a quick shout out, Damon Decker. Everybody knows Hurricane Damon, okay? And he is what he is. But him and his crew had a good policy. The problem was when they left, the program stopped. And that's what didn't work about it. But guys, if you have the car on the service drive, you know the history of the car on the service drive, and the customer's there. If you follow through on it, and by the way, we'll get into this later, we can get into it later, and you spiff the advisor for it, today, not 2 weeks from now, and not on his paycheck so mama knows about it. Sorry, guys, it can't happen. If you do that and you're consistent with it, it works. The advisor will do it, but it has to compensate them, because when you're taking that car and trading it in, and we can get into the recon process with Nico shortly, they're still probably going to repair the car, but that advisor's commission probably changes. Their focus is, listen, they're probably getting paid 4 or 5, whatever percent on the customer pay side, and they're getting 1% or no percent on the internal side. So if that car goes away and you lose it, or it goes internal, you just took money out of the advisor's pocket. But that sales manager or that salesperson, and we can talk about service drive walks that don't happen, or TOs to customers, or having salespeople drive customers in the shuttles, old things that have worked throughout the years. Guys, it works. The customer's there. You know what you've got. You know the car.
Well, Shon, we've had a couple discussions here with Brian Kramer, Tully Williams, good friends of yours, and they have said that at times, and Tully in particular, that could be a great distraction, especially during prime time rush hour out there looking at these cars when service, the order of the day is to, get vehicles into the shop to technicians who are waiting for them.
It's very well said, Ted, and that's why it's so important to know that we know what customers are coming in 2 weeks in advance, okay? Look at the schedule, not the morning of when they're lined up. Nico and I can tell you, we ran stores where they're 50 cars deep at 7 a.m. because there's a lot of military and they got to be on the base by 7:30. That's not the time to do it. There's a time and a place to do it, and there's a right way to do it, and that's where the relationship with the advisor comes into play, where if the advisor, listen, if this car is what it is and it's an 06 Caravan or an 06 Pacifica, and it needs a transmission, listen, it's a prime opportunity to trade them out of it. But remember, that's a $3,000 job for that advisor. They don't want to give up either, unless you're going to spiff them for it.
All right, Don, I got to come to you. You've run some very big service departments all across the country. I love the book, by the way, while automotive dealerships fail to grow, why they fail to grow. Talk to us your perspective on it.
Well, I think, it was such a big deal when inventories were really down and things of that nature. Boy, there was this huge effort all of a sudden as a general manager in my store. I suddenly was, okay, guys, you got to get into that service drive. And suddenly there's this real initiative. Well, I think Shon is 100% right. If you're not understanding the world of that service advisor, if you're not understanding that he's got things he's got to get accomplished and that flow has to keep going. So you can't just walk in and now suddenly try to push yourself into a conversation and things of that nature. So it starts really with a plan with the advisor. Truly, the sales staff has to get to know the advisor staff. And then you choose those moments and you choose those strategies. So I'm going to finish my write-up. I may even go as far as to say, by the way, a good friend of mine, John here, is in sales, and he's been looking at your vehicle. He's going to do a complimentary appraisal for you. You'll get the results of that when you come to pick the vehicle up. And he may even reach out to you. Are you comfortable? Are you good with that? This casual conversation that was taking place because the advisor was actually part of the equation. And Shon, I think you're 100% right. You've got to have a real plan of how you're going to compensate that advisor. And then there's actually one really important part of it is that customer may drift up front. Maybe they came in for an oil change and you're facilitating getting that done. And now they're up in the lounge and there's an engagement happening. And then they really lowball the trade. And now suddenly you've got this frustrated customer walking back out into the service drive. Nothing that the service did that created this, and suddenly they have a poor attitude. Now they just want to be out of here, and you, in essence, hurt that relationship. So you don't go in this, just blindly. You certainly don't decide one day I'm gonna buy cars out of the service drive. There has to be structure. There's got to be a plan. And then people have to be compensated, and they become your biggest advocate when that happens. I think that's probably a good way to say it.
Shon, do you want to chime in before I come to Nico on this?
I do, and thank you, Ted. I got to tell you what Don said was dead on. It's got to be a process. It's got to be a process that's followed through, and it can't be the flavor of the week. Don said something very important though, and we did it with we did it with Trevor. Okay, Ted, you know this. Where when the client called in, the phone call went to Trevor, and Trevor prepped the client. Sir, I'll use Nico. Nico, while you're here, we're going to go and do an appraisal on your vehicle. Would that be okay? If the answer was yes, then there was a line added to the repair order, going to be an appraisal. Do you know the biggest failure is sales didn't put an appraisal in the car. And the surveys came back negative because the client wanted the appraisal because they were expecting it. We had to stop the program, not because Trevor did it wrong, it's because we did it wrong. Because again, when you set the expectation, you need to follow through on it.
Nico, let me come to you. What are your thoughts here?
It's all reality where they're saying, we lowball a trade, but then we'll sit in an auction and pay 94% to a car. And I sit back, and the only way to grow, and mostly today, more than ever, is why wouldn't I pay 94% if it's sitting on the drive, if the car deserves the 94%, knowing that I know exactly what's wrong with that vehicle, and I can have the car in and out because they already got a spot for it. If I trade for a car at the auction, I got to bring it here. Now I got to send it in. Now it sits in the back. But we don't work the service drive enough. We make promises to the service department that we break, because then we say, well, he didn't trade us the car on Monday. He traded it on Thursday. So you don't deserve the spiff. And deep down inside, guys, I keep saying, if you want to grow a used car department, you need to live in that service drive, have a good communication with service. And you know what? It's not that hard to help service because service is always helping us. But we sit there and kind of sit back and go, it's in service. I got to go to the back. Guys, it's not that bad. I mean, sure, it could be raining, it could be hot, it could be cold. But deep down inside, if you made a promise, just keep it, because the service drive is just wealth that we never tap into. And then we tap into it and we last for 3 to 6 months. And then it seems like we have too many cars and we stop, but it's never enough used cars. If you buy them right, you can never have enough cars.
You're right. Don, Nico is right. There is a new appreciation of that service drive and what's coming in there. And that really is an amazing, amazing wealth.
There's great tools out there now. Trevor, there's a number of tools out there now that exactly what's got the best equity position on a particular customer, and it's so. We would designate a person a day. That was their day. It was Tuesday. It was Wednesday, whatever that day was, and we made them show us the day before the 5, 4, 6 cars, whatever it was that they had deemed really good quality opportunities. And so there were going to be positive conversations anyways. Hey, I could take you out of this vehicle and put you into a brand new vehicle and keep the same payment and things of that nature, right? A little more challenging today with interest rates, but the reality of it was you have tools that can get you all that information. So you're not necessarily talking to everybody. You're talking to those 5 or 6 people that we know are going to be a good opportunity. And now you prep the service department. They're in the game. They're part of the equation. And so it actually worked pretty well. But they had a day. That was their committed day.
And Don, I would think that the service manager, like Shon said earlier, going through doing a preview, let's say with the advisors of what's coming in tomorrow morning or the following day or the following day, and looking at the age of the vehicles, the mileage of the vehicles, looking at the opportunity for service and parts first, okay? But then, picking out those vehicles that might be in the acquisition phase. I think the service manager would need to be doing that anyway, just for service and parts and fixed operations, to make sure that the advisors are aware of what the customer declined last time, what they may or may not have done, and what's due this time as well.
Yeah, you're right on the money. The book that you mentioned earlier, I appreciate that. Just talks about this idea of taking that appointment and spending time with it the day before, really understanding what those prime concerns are, looking at their history, what they declined on previous, so they're ready to go as well. So the level of preparation, both on the used, the sales staff as well as the advisor staff, puts both of them in a great position to be successful. It's just waiting for them to show up, and now you suddenly realize they're rushed and they don't even want to talk to you. They're late to work. The appointment time didn't work for them. It screwed up their morning, and all that plays into havoc that people get a bad taste in their mouth, and suddenly they don't want to participate, right? So your day before preparations becomes incredibly powerful.
Shon, Kingrey, Brian Kramer had a great story here on the roundtable of a customer who came in for service, and the advisor, once the customer came in, started writing it up. They were prodded about the acquisition mode, and next thing you know, the customer gravitated over to the showroom. Meanwhile, the keys were gone, the car's sitting in the service drive, and you get the picture, Shon, right?
So, and it happens, but Ted, that goes back to the process. I mean, again, there's a process that needs to be followed every single time. The write-up needs to be done, the ticket needs to be signed. It needs to go through the flow. And once you do that, it is pretty seamless, because the problem is, if you're on automatic dispatch, like you just talked about, Ted, I generate the RO, that may populate on the tech screen right away. Now you got a tech out back looking for a car for 25 minutes that Nico's got on a test drive 2 miles away from the dealership. By the way, that's why we get to curse at Nico all the time, because it's always his fault. Anyway, just so you know.
Nico, we're trying to be fair and balanced on both sides, and I know there's a lot to be said on the variable side as well.
I will tell you one thing. I have a process which for me is I have them appraise every car that comes through.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know what? The 4 or 5 cars, just because they're in an equity state, doesn't mean that's the buyer. The buyer could be the guy that's not in an equity state because family changes, job changes. Don brought up the whole part of interest rates, but deep down inside, if you have a process, and we can go back to Damon, I mean, that guy had it black and white. I mean, if you follow that process, it works, but he hits every single car throughout the whole day. But every exchange has to happen in service before sales can go and take over the customer or the vehicle. That's the big part, is you can't interrupt service and change their world just because, the customer's really hot, he wants to just buy a new car. He doesn't care. That to me is the big thing. Also, if the ticket had 7 items for $3,500, then you might as well leave the car in there, pay the $3,500, because you should have appraised the car with that number in there, because it was black and white, right? So it wasn't like the numbers changed, but then we we sit there in this side and say, well, can you knock that down? Can you knock this down? You can't knock everything down in service.
Yeah.
Because if you do that, then service isn't profitable. And you're running 4 different departments, and everybody's got to be profitable at a certain point, right? Service, when sales goes down, service carries the thing, right? Deep down inside, service should be carrying the dealership 100%. And that's what everybody has to understand, that they can help you on 1, 2, or 3 cars. They can't help you on 99 cars that you put back there.
Yep, I agree. You gentlemen are all alluding to, some more than others, a lot of the tools that are out there now that have come out, and that Shon, you recently did a panel with Patrick Janes at V Auto at Northwood University. You've referenced, and Nico's referenced Damon Decker as well, and very successful program he's had running. I know you used it down there at Step One. We talked about Brian Benstock in the green room at Paragon. I know he's used it as well. I also see now Kelly Blue Book Instant Cash Offer is on the roundtable talking about the same thing. And Brian Kramer is on here showing how in 30 seconds, with the OB2 reader and with the AccuTrade app, they can do a fairly accurate appraisal regardless of who's doing it, manager or not involved. Shon, talk to us about some of these tools, because it's amazing the focus that's happening now on this one area.
When we were in Northwood, we were discussing it. I talk about how valuable is a scan to it. And Nico, this goes into really your area. Guys, the days of disappearing codes are gone. Disconnecting the negative battery cable doesn't work like it used to work. The codes are there. And again, I made a comment on the stage and probably should have said it. I don't think it got edited, shockingly enough. But the old phrase, buyers are liars, guys. There's a truth behind that. There's a reason they're trading the car in. And Nico, you talked about the auctions earlier. There's a reason that car's at the auction. So when it comes in, you paid 94% and you're surprised because it's 3 different shades of green or it needs a rear end. But to Ted's point, and I'm going to go with the domestic because I have domestic stores here. We have all 3, you go Smart, Savvy, or Y Advisor, depending which OEM you're with, and they've all got them. Guys, we know the codes in the car before it ever leaves the service drive. Now that reaches its own challenges where advisors are starting to diagnose cars. But guys, we can give you the answers, and this goes to the variable side of the house. We can tell you what's wrong with the car. What do they say? 86% of everything we fix on each car is repetitive. We know what's wrong with that car. We know if it's a code, it's a secondary battery, it's a Chrysler, it's a transmission, or it's an EVAP, or whatever the case is. We know the answer. So when you appraise the car, to Nico's point, that $3,500 is built in the cost of the price when you appraise the car. The customer's not there because they want to see our smiley face. They're there because the car's broke. All right. It's okay to tell them that it's broke. And it's okay to incorporate that in the cost of the estimate. Yeah, at the end of the day, Nico, if there's a price difference or if you need help, again, it can't be on every car, but there's exceptions to that rule also, okay? And Ted, that leads into a next step, if you don't mind, real quick, is yes, you can OBD, you can scan the cars. By the way, you have to scan the car. It's a requirement for all the manufacturers now to write the repair order. On most manufacturers, as long as there's no more outages, when we scan the car, I write the RO from the service drive. The advisor never goes inside the service, but they don't have to. Everything is done from the pad on the drive. What better opportunity when that car's in the air and you know it needs brakes, you know what leaks it's got. Listen, you're getting a used car inspection for free. It's already there. I hate to tell you this. It's not like we're inspecting the car a whole lot more when it's a used car inspection when the customer's there. It might be more thorough, quite frankly, because they're not all difficult and trying to beat you up every single time. So, Ted, to answer your question, the tools are there. They're there on every one of the manufacturers, and it tells you everything you want to know. And again, before the client ever even leaves the service drive.
Nico, this is becoming more of a scientific thing, the evaluation of the car, than it was ever years ago. And Nico, I can't even imagine where it's going to be 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years from now, Nico.
I just think that just exactly what Shon says. You guys keep getting more and more information. I mean, now a lot of stuff comes through the airwaves. You guys can do updates and stuff. So I'm a firm believer that really what we're going to start doing is looking at the car, make sure it paint's right, it drives right, but we're going to keep depending more and more and more on service. And that friendship has to become huge because you have to spend time in service to understand what you guys are doing to what we're doing. It's very easy to say, hey, that guy in 5 minutes got the car out. How many years did he devote himself to understand that in 5 minutes? but we know the flat paid him 2 hours. So we start with that whole fight. Well, he should have just paid him 5 minutes. No, the guy spent 2 hours, right, at one time in his life, or maybe 3, to figure the diagnostics. And today he can do it because he spent 20 years, 15 years, and that's why he's a master. And I'm a firm believer we lose a lot of that value. And that's where used car managers need to have every morning meetings with the service manager, seeing exactly where everything's at, seeing what they can do. And the other thing is, what can you help with? Because it's a 70,000 mile car. It's out of warranty. It's out of everything. And I can't get you a part. Well, where can we get the part? But if we don't go and ask, and all we do is point fingers at service, the car loses value daily. To me, is if every used car manager was their money, their assets would be completely watched differently.
Yeah. And that communication that you referenced, Nico, is super important. I know one of the topics in our panel is speed to sale. That's been a big focus the last couple of years, bringing that time to sale down lower and lower and lower. Don, what are your thoughts?
Well, when you're in the process of the sale and you're now evaluating the trade, that credibility with the customer, they've been online, they have what they think that value of that trade is worth. And your job is to move through that negotiation now with real credible things. So when you're using the Savvy or whatever that tool is, and you're pulling those codes, that puts you in a really good position. When you're evaluating the tires and things that, it's amazing how they will superficially just check tires, when the reality of it is tires is a big expense. And so measuring those types of things and all that, a good buddy of mine put in 2 UVIs, and he said, it's great for service. We're selling a lot of tires, we're selling a lot of things, but they run the used car through there really fast, and they get the printout of the tire and even some damage on the vehicle. It picks up that damage. So that's a great tool, but just this idea of using credible tools to have that negotiation on that trade value is a pretty powerful thing. And how do you do that? Well, you have to have a relationship with the service manager, right? You've got to be able to pick up the phone and call him. He's got to answer that, say, I've got an appraisal right now. I've got a couple of codes. I'm using this tool that you gave me. Thank you. The Savvy or whatever it might be. And can you help me out? What am I looking at? And I think, Shon, you hit it right in the head. We know what a lot of these codes are. We can ballpark a lot just based on those codes. And by the way, which codes to stay completely away from, right? And so this idea of having this relationship with the service department, maybe some key individuals that are going to pick up that phone. Now you got great appraisal value. Now you put the right number on the car, and now that's going to move through that reconditioning process really well. This authorization, this waiting for authorization and all those types of things really become pushed to the side because why? Everybody's eyes are wide open. And now we're moving at a really good pace through that recon.
Shon, when you were on stage recently, I'll reference that at a recent roundtable. The gentleman on stage with you from V Auto, Patrick, said that the average consumer today, he gave us a number, how many quotes they've had for what their vehicle is worth. And he said if it's a Gen Z customer, it was even larger than that. And while they had done a study at Cox Automotive that customers are, doing less and less shopping comparing dealers, really the appraisal number has gone up.
It has, and it's funny. I think the number was the customer has 3 when they come in. If it's a Gen Z, or it's 6, or it doubled, or whatever the case is. Wow. The customer is smarter than we are when they walk in the door. The customer also knows what's wrong with the car. And back to real quick to what Nico said earlier. The key word we use there is silos. You got to remove the silos. And we mentioned something when Patrick was on stage. To your point, Ted, was listen, with V Auto nowadays, you got the salesperson out there taking 120 pictures of the car. The sales manager is not even going out to the car anymore. The salesperson's doing the appraisal or the walk around, and they're bidding it from a computer. And to Nico's point, once again, what are you looking at? Paint and tires? Because that's really all you're going to see. That salesperson is no different than an advisor. They want to sell the car, okay? If there's something wrong with it, chances are they're not going to raise their hand and tell you, by the way, because they want to sell the car. They don't want to tell you that the bumper's half hanging off or that it was missing when it came in or whatever the case is. Again, that V-Auto panel was probably one of the better panels we've done, Ted, because it's really all about the silos. To Nico's point, you have to eliminate the silos between sales and service. There doesn't need to be a silo, and the transition just needs to be smooth.
Nico, let me come back to you on some takeaways from this panel for our audience. We're hearing about communication, between variable and fixed ops. What are your thoughts there? How does that happen? How often does that happen? What's the best way to implement that?
I'm a firm believer from a used car, when I was a used car director, was making sure every single morning you're having that conversation. You have a cup of coffee with your service manager, see where you're standing, see where you're at, see what you can do to get your cars through, because everybody needs to help. I mean, just because you pushed it to the back, we forget about that cars in the back, right? We have all these tools in the front, and you can use tools to manage the whole back end. And deep down inside, you got to walk your cars daily and have that conversation with service managers to see where you're at. Because if a car has a parts hold, how long is a parts hold for? Is it a parts hold for 2-3 days, or is it a part hold for 4 or 5 months? If it's long term, then make a decision, dump the car. Everybody's scared of wholesale loss because, I don't know, it's become a bad word recently after we went through COVID, right? So, man, sometimes you just got to cut it, because leaving a car in the back for 4 or 5 months, then rodents got a hold of your car. Now what do? Blame service because service left it out back? For me was every single morning have the conversation and try to go through your appraisals with them. So when you're putting line items on your appraisals, they're correct. Because if you guys are charging $350 for a brake job and my tool says $225, then you guys are always ripping me off. Deep down inside, you're not ripping me off. I just have the wrong price. So I'm always missing it when I appraise that car.
Don, there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, I will tell you that the V-Auto tool that we use, a provision where every day the used car manager was sitting down with the fixed ops or the service manager and literally going through the tool together. Here's where I've got it currently priced. This is my ranking. This is what percentage of market it is. And they were making decisions together. Again, the trade-ins are one thing, but if you're buying cars at an auction, God forbid, but that happens, and things of that nature, these are real challenges. And then you're right, being creative in your parts acquisition, all because this car is sitting is a disaster. And so, they understood, our service manager understood the tools, the V-Auto tools, as well as the used car manager. And when you got to that level playing field like that, where everybody was in the game and everybody's got, a real purpose for trying to save the car and get it out there as quick as possible, it's amazing how fast decisions were made and made positively. Everybody won.
Shon, Kingrey, I'll give you the last word.
I'm going to go off of what Don and Nico both said. And again, not a popular conversation, guys, but you need to look at your parts manager also, and to the points of parts hold, to what Nico said. Guys, the incentives and the rebates and the purchase discounts you got from the OEMs pre-COVID is gone. It doesn't exist. You're not getting purchase discounts. So that loyalty thing that we used to hold over Nico's head because he wanted to put a used transmission in a Cherokee and it would destroy us, that doesn't exist anymore, guys. So now it's getting that car on the road. Last thing, the matrix side of the house. And listen, I'm all about gross and making money. You got to watch where the matrices lie and make sure that they're not high grossing you. If the car needs a transmission, it needs to be at a fair price. Okay. We all want to make profit. We all have standards. We all have numbers we're held accountable to, but it's got to be fair for both sides. Again, it's all about communication, removing the silos.
Great panel, gentlemen. I'm going to ask you to come back and let's do this at an upcoming Fixed Ops Roundtable. Not enough time for this discussion, but I want to thank Nico Gara from Drive Billings, who's with us here today. Shon Kingrey, the Vice President of Fixed Operations at the Kaiser Automotive Group in Wisconsin. Shon, it may not be as nice weather next time we get together here on the Roundtable.
Correct.
And Don Andres, who's the author of Why Auto Service Departments Fail to Grow. He's also the owner of Auto SCT Consulting and Training, a great resource for our industry. Gentlemen, on behalf of the Fix Ops Roundtable, thank you for all you do and appreciate your time with us today.
Thank you, Ted.
Thanks, Ted.
Thank you, guys.
The all-star panel here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
I'm Nick Wright. I'm a lead performance manager with Private Time GPS. Been with the company for 6 years as a performance manager. Car business for 17 years, and I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. I made the switch from retail to Viato. I took the leap to go on the Viato side just because I could still make a difference in the dealership, still help everyone achieve goals, which is, from a sports guy, that's my goal. All the mistakes that I made in my career or things that I wish I would have known or paid attention to is now my almost mission or pet peeve with every time I get a new client. It's, hey, these are the things that I thought. Here's the things that I perceive this software to do or this system to do, and this is actually what it does. What I hear all the time is, people would say, oh, Viato says, or Viato is telling me to do this, and a lot of the times we're not telling you to do anything, it's just reading the market and understanding what that market is now presenting to you and the choice that you have to make. So it's essentially understanding how that works and how we can go exist with our plan as a dealer versus what the market is telling me and how I can marry those things together. So I think it's asking the questions that is pertaining to that particular dealer, what are their goals that they want to achieve, and then tailoring our approach and using the software to achieve those goals. The most rewarding part of my job is seeing a dealer that says, hey, I want to sell 100 cars, and they're selling 30, and they have this pie in the sky number of what they want to do per month, and then we look back 3 years later and they're selling 150 and 200, and we laugh at the times that they were selling 30 and said, hey, will we ever get there? So really, it's the change that I make with my dealers. It feels really great to hear them affected.
This event is well done. Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable Summer Palooza event.
These big names are making waves in the industry. Please welcome the Leading Change panel.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine, and today we have an incredible group with us for the Leading Change panel. We have Stephen Woessner, Don Andres, Steve Greenfield, Ed Roberts, Tully Williams, and Brian Kramer. We have a lot to get through, and gentlemen, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
We've unpacked so much already, and it's going to be a great conversation today. Everybody is talking about all the changes coming. Here it is, fall. We're getting ready to go right into an election. There's a lot of changes that are happening in our industry, and there's a lot of question marks on the horizon. And so first, I just want to ask everybody in the group a question about what are they looking at in their businesses, and what should dealers be looking at as these changes are coming? Stephen, I'll start with you. Your perspective, what are the big pieces a dealer should be focusing on right now?
Well, I think when you take a look at the things that are changing, I think what dealers need to do a better job of is have a more holistic view of their business. They tend to look at it in chimneys, and that's great if you're trying to fix a small problem in one situation. But you have changes happening across the board. And so I think dealers really need to look and see, okay, what's the effect of a change in sales due to service? What does a change in service do to sales? And then have a good understanding of that so that they don't just move a customer pain point from one department to another. So I would have a more holistic view.
Don, you see a lot in fixed operations department, and a lot of dealerships are experiencing the change, from years past. What is your perspective that dealers should be focusing on?
Yeah, I think this refocusing on now service departments actually having volume, right? So We have customers that are deciding to hold on to their vehicles longer. And it's important at that point in time that we don't take a dealer that might be struggling with engagement and some of those types of things. And now we're adding more volume. That just creates more stress and some more chaos. So this idea of developing some training initiatives now for these advisors, for their BDCs, to say, okay, how can we put the advisor in a position where he truly can be engaging customers, talking about what's their plans with the vehicle, so that by the time they're talking about an MPI and saying, okay, we want to get some things accomplished on the vehicle, if that customer is saying, boy, that's more than I want to spend, I've got a nice trust factor built in. Let's walk you up front and let's talk about this is a great time to do that. But more importantly, we need more yeses in the service drive, probably today more than ever, to make up that struggles that are happening on the variable side in terms of net profit. And we do that by getting more approvals on the additional needed services. That's going to be the secret, I think, is seeing the value of getting the advisors trained up and getting the BDC trained up to value the phone call, get prepared, and then have really good engagement in that service drive in that morning write-up.
Steve Greenfield, you have a unique perspective where you have the opportunity to look at up and coming technologies and pieces that dealerships can be implementing or investing in. What is your perspective? What changes are on the horizon in the next few months that dealers should be paying attention to?
So I think that the promise of AI, we're finally starting to see some of this manifest, right, in very practical ways for dealers. And a lot of that's coming, thankfully, into fixed operations. So I think we're going to find more augmentation of repetitive tasks that take away some of the low value, repetitive nature of folks that are working within fixed operations and replace that with automation, whether that's automating the reach out to consumers, whether that's allowing technicians to be loaded up with the work that should be matched to them, the work that they do best with, that they can start to increase the amount of throughput and thus the amount of revenue generated per employee. I think we're starting to see more process automation focus on fixed operations, which is giving me a lot of hope that we're going to see higher margins in the future out of a dealer's fixed operations.
Ed Roberts, you have been at the forefront of a lot of changes in fixed operations. What are you seeing that dealerships should be paying attention to with change?
Well, let's focus on what's in front of us. And what's in front of us, we're about 50 days away from an election. And we're about 120 days away from a change in office. There is going to be a change in office no matter which way it goes. And there's always this conversation about which side or whatever else. And I want everybody to have their opinions. But it is our job as leaders of this industry to go out there and tell every one of our folks that everything's going to be just fine. And then the day after election, that no matter which way it goes, that it was the best thing that could have happened, because what we just did is just settled everything. And then when it changes over in January, because there will be a change, no matter which way it goes, there's going to be someone different leading. And we have to drive through that, because both sides of the fence, I don't care what side you're on, you still need an automobile. You still need it to be serviced. You still need all of those elements. And we can get hung up in the negativity part of it, or what if this happens, or what if whatever happens. All of us on this call have been around for a bit, and we've all thrived through every single regime that's been in office, and we will thrive through the next one. And it's how we tell our people that we got to prepare and be ready. And it's the best thing that could have ever happened, period, going forward. And that's how we'll lead change going into the next 120 days that we're going to face.
Tully Williams, so much to talk about with change. What are your thoughts?
Well, first, I'm going to say amen, Ed. Great comment. I like to manage. I think our people should be managing their inventory, their hours inventory. And then what I mean by manage inventory, how important that inventory is as we grow technicians up, as we want to stay leading the charge. Are you growing technicians, shop assistants to hourlies to flat rates? Is there a plan on your shop? If you walked out to your shop today, do you have shop assistants now working? Do you have hourly technicians that want to move up? Is there an incentive for these people to move up? And then the last but not least is what I want you to do is measure the gross profit per minute per technician. Parts and labor gross, we call PL, GPH, we have high as from $6 to $10 a minute. When we look at some of the AI products that Steve was talking about, how do we help our technicians make more money for them and their families, go home rich and tired every day by staying in their stall? When you sit there and see 5 technicians talking for 5 minutes, it can be a tremendous amount of money. And our goal is to manage that and say, wow, how do I help those efficiencies grow?
Brian Kramer, lots of change happening in the industry, a lot on the technology side and a lot in the dealership experience side. What changes do you feel dealerships should be paying attention to?
So as I travel around the country, there's some dealers that seem to be freaking out. And then there's dealers that are like, hey, we anticipated this. I don't know why this has surprised everybody. Because they've got, and those dealers have strong used car departments. They know how to source vehicles from consumers. And they've been doing the hard work for the last 3 to 5 years of building and growing a succession planning, for technicians and ASMs and scaling their fixed operations businesses. As much new technology, and I'm always a proponent of it, right? And sometimes, too distracted by shiny objects. But as much new technology as there is, I think that there's not enough, intolerance for not adapting to it. And I think that there's so many service departments that I walk up to that are turning away walk-in business, and they're scheduling people out 2 or 3 weeks because they haven't done that hard work. And I think the biggest change that needs to happen is the change that should have happened 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. But the dealers have to stop making excuses and saying, oh, well, it's hard to find technicians, or we can't find experienced technicians. I think it's already been established they're not out there. The only way you get experienced technicians is by growing them from within. So I think that's the change that needs to occur overall as an industry.
I'm going to pivot the conversation a little bit into revenue because, a lot of dealerships are focusing on their bottom line. Costs are increasing. There's inventory that, is getting bottlenecked in new cars. And there's a used car market, which, there's been a ton of things going on in that and in the service department. So dealerships are really top of mind thinking about revenue streams and what are some new revenue streams or ones that they could be leveraging better in their dealerships. Stephen Woessner, I want to come to you first. What new revenue streams can dealerships be developing or implementing now?
Well, there are a number of different options on that. I mean, in a lot of cases, you can do some additional work in service. You can do tires if you're not doing tires. You can do accessories if you're not doing accessories. One of the things that they probably ought to take a look at is looking at stuff like e-bikes, because that's something that's very, very big in Europe. It's growing here. Ford Motor Company just came out with 2 e-bikes. You have Mercedes has one, BMW has one. There are a number of things to look at in that for first mile and last mile type of things. And then I think you're also going to see an explosion of things like cargo bikes. And if you look at a lot of cities around the country, a lot of these cities are adjusting to the fact that they're too congested. They've got to figure out a way to improve on that. And I think looking at these kind of things that they have not looked at before, you can reprocess some of the things you were doing before and now you've fallen off. But I think for a lot of this stuff, you have to start to look differently. And you have to start to expand your view of transportation. Okay, it's not just cars and trucks anymore. I think with the new technologies coming along and the new things that are involved in that, you really have to take a more expanded view of transportation. And as a dealer, you have to leverage those things. So it's important to do the training that the guys talked about, do the kind of stuff, the prep work to have your people ready to do these things. I mean, these things aren't things you can just throw a light switch on and, ooh, it just happened. I mean, you have to do the prep work for it. And I think if they do that, the opportunities for increasing revenue streams are significant right now. And a lot of customers are looking for different things. And if you are a dealer and you make yourself the source of that thing, you're going to grow your revenue.
Don, so much to think about with revenue streams and different ways that dealers can be leveraging existing or new processes. What would you suggest for dealers to be looking at?
Well, you know, Ed Roberts is a greatest example of somebody that has rethought the model and committed to doing that. I think over the years in running fixed operations, it's amazing. Once you kind of get them dialed in and they're feeling good and they're hitting their mark every day and they're kind of a machine-like attitude, you start looking out and seeing opportunities that you could do better. You know, our detail department at many of my stores struggled to get used cars done in a timely manner because we never really committed to any understanding of how that system could work. And on more than one occasion, I've installed a detail assembly line process and put in 4 stations, 8 people. And you say, that's great, I can't find 8 people. You'll be shocked when you try to be creative. And we had a situation where a car was coming off the line every 15 minutes that was flawlessly done. So these are creative ideas that are always out there. But I will say this, at the end of the day, profitability really comes down to, I think, the quality of the multi-point inspection. So once you have everything in place, let's start to look at the quality of the MPI. Are we putting the writer in a position to get as many opportunities to talk about what's happening with the vehicle, and then following up on decline services? The amount of approvals still hasn't gone up that much. 35% is considered pretty strong, which really means that a customer made a conscious decision to come into the dealership. They get it. They just didn't have the time or money that day. And so I would spend some real opportunities, not just simply sending out a 10% coupon or things that nature with the follow-up. No, I would really create some engagement with the advisors on the follow-up of decline services. The stores that have done that in the past have had those people coming, looping back in a month later, 2 months later with sold work. And suddenly the net profits in that service operations, parts operations dramatically increases.
We're here with the Leading Change panel and so much already shared. Steve Greenfield, want to come to you. There's a lot of revenue opportunities that dealerships can be looking at to add things that maybe they aren't doing yet or thinking about enhancing. What is your perspective on what dealerships can be utilizing or putting into place today?
Yeah, I encourage dealers to stay very open-minded to new technologies that are emerging, right? So two examples within our portfolio that absolutely drop more revenue and more profitability to the bottom line. One, Sarah, you've heard of before multiple times, being War Cloud. And, you can eliminate costs in terms of the warranty claims processing, get paid quicker. And interestingly enough, when the claims are submitted properly, we find dealers on average get about 10% more per RO. So that's really a win-win technology that we invested in now almost 4 years ago, and it's been a home run within our portfolio. A second one that we've invested in more recently that might not be on people's radar is a company called Evenflow. And they simply work to load up your technicians in your bays with the right work. So matching the technician with the right work means that there's more throughput. The technicians are better at getting work done that they're familiar with. And at the end of the day, you're getting more yield or more revenue per technician. They are staying busier with the right work overall. So just 2 examples of new technologies that are out. I'm sure there are dozens more that are focused on innovating within fixed ops. We're searching out the ability to invest in some of these early stage companies, but I think you're going to find more and more entrepreneurs which are understanding that more than 50% of a dealer's profitability comes from fixed operations, and therefore they're really focused on helping dealers alleviate some of these needs.
Ed Roberts, no stranger to change and coming up with innovative practices to drive revenue. What are some of the pieces that you think dealers should be focusing on for new opportunities for revenue streams?
So anytime we talk about revenue, and no matter what store it is, you got to look in the mirror a bit, because it's a lot of times we haven't set the tone for what good looks like for our employees. Steve just talked about making sure we get the right work with the right people. Tully always talks about hours. I can assure you the people at his store knows how many hours they produced yesterday. They know what the expectation is for today, and there's a goal for tomorrow. And so it's setting the expectation of what good looks like. And so when I work with a store, I'll give them the opportunity of what they have with revenue with the current people they have. And then I'll give them the number that they have, that their potential is with their facility. And yeah, there's a gap there, but let's just look at what they have, the number of people that they have, what their opportunity is. And it's always about a 40% spread from where they're currently at. So that is going back to what Steve was talking about, getting more per. But that really is setting an expectation. What do I expect out of it? And because if they turn us 8 hours and we have an expectation of 10 and we don't express that to them, and they turn us 8.1, they're good. But if you set an expectation with them, that 10 is probably just as easy to come across as that 8, because they did what Don talked about and did a better job of inspecting the vehicle and asking for the business. So it's setting the tone of what good looks like and setting an expectation for each position in the store. When you do that, a lot of times you'll find that you've probably oversaturated the store with more people than you have tasks for. Then that gives you the opportunity. I'm not telling you to go cut everybody out. Then that gives you the opportunity to create new revenue streams. You give them a different task to chase after. And so you can pick up what you're not getting, and then you can go chase something new.
Tully, lots of conversations on innovation and change, but revenue, you always talk about it's all about the hours. What should we be focusing on to drive revenue into our dealerships?
Well, I'm going to piggyback off of Don and Ed, and I'm going to say, are you looking at what you're selling today? Are you monitoring it? A lot of times people can say, well, he does blank per hour or blank per RO. I care less about that, honestly. I care about, are we selling great recommendations that we sell our family members? Are our technicians doing proper videos? Have you looked at your technician videos? Are they doing a great job? Have you determined what a good video is? Like Ed said, ours is 45 seconds. Say hello, recommend what needs to be done, and pictures of every red. The next big puzzle you must deal is, what are you selling of every RO? What recommendations are? We sell between 50 and 70% of everything we ask for. Why? Because we look at it every day. Break out your MPIs. Break out. We call same-day selling. Are we selling tires? Are we selling light bulbs? Are we selling oil changes? Are we selling maintenance? Are we selling batteries? Are we selling brakes? Break those things out into categories. And then if areas that are not being sold right, ask the whys. We understand there's 4 huge points. If you don't sell maintenance, they won't come back. If we don't sell tires, they won't come back. If they don't sell batteries, they don't come back. And if we don't sell brakes, they don't come back. They'll come back for check engine lights because they have to. Our goal is to look at those items individually by technician, and most important, by advisor. Look at that there. That will drive your revenue.
Brian, lots to think about. And I know you've got a lot of thoughts on how dealerships can create new revenue streams. So what would you suggest that they look at in the next few months?
Well, I would say that most of the good ideas have been picked over. I'll add this. I think that one of the biggest things in fixed operation, and it has been that way, but for the next 5 years, is going to be taking control of your rental car programs. So right now, a lot of dealers, when they're appraising vehicles, they'll defer somebody to Carvana or CarMax, or, hey, you might as well just let them have that. I don't think it's really any different when you sublet all of your rental car business to one of the large aggregators of used cars. Service departments, specifically franchise dealerships, have most of the control over what cars they're putting in, when, and how often, with what color, what equipment. And allocation streams from your OEM are different than your traditional allocation system. So it's a way to supplement the hottest vehicles, the Toyota Siennas, the Toyota Tacomas, the Tundras that are all the right equipment. And if you do it long enough in advance, you're going to be able to supplement it. But not only that, you're ordering your used car inventory for certified pre-owned. And a lot of dealers will say, well, I'm going to put in my old 2024s that I haven't sold yet, that were the wrong configuration, the leftovers, and the ones that have a high market day supply, when in fact, that's the reason why they typically then hand over their lunch money to a Hertz or an Enterprise, because they're putting the wrong ones in at the wrong time. Vehicles probably shouldn't be put in from March until July. because you should be loading up on it when the fresh inventory comes out, letting it run. So as soon as that model year is over, now you're pulling out highly desirable inventory that's going to turn very quickly. You can write it up in many cases instead of writing it down. And we're coming up with some software to help dealers do this, but I think that, there's a 7-digit revenue stream in some of these large dealerships, like Ed and Tully's, where they can actually turn a profit by renting their own vehicles. But it's going to require discipline. It's going to require accountability. But it's, in my opinion, it's one of the other things that needs to be brought back in-house. It was and went out, and it needs to come back in.
The Leading Change panel today has been full of incredible information, but we're not done yet. We have quick lightning round question to ask the group. I'm going to ask you all to have maybe like a 30-second quick answer. I'm putting you on the spot. No one was prepared for this question, but I'm going to throw it out there. Tips to reach more customers. We're talking about how we can innovate and change and look at revenue, but at the heart of it all, our customers are the most important element in our business. So I'm going to go in reverse this time. Brian, I'm going to start with you. What is your key lightning round 30-second take, the tip to reach more customers?
You need to create content of how things work and what the steps are that the guests can expect. That's what AI-based search, ChatGPT, Google Gemini, that's what they're looking for, is when you say, how do I schedule or what's the best place to schedule oil changes? Looking for the most content of step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and you should create all your website content, begin doing it all right now, just like that.
Tully, your tip, reach more customers.
Start early. Call the customers the month before they should show up. Call them the month after they left and tell them about what they did not buy. Talk about those items. Maximize your BDC to talk to everybody.
Ed, your tip, reach more customers today.
So I will say from our standpoint, go to a mobile event, go to a school nearby, go to a church, go to whatever, and offer whatever you want to offer there. But you will introduce your brand to everyone there, not just the normal market share that you have. And with Ford, it's 14%. I want to reach out to everybody, but do something outside the box. And if that's taking vehicles somewhere, do something outside of the box. If we continue to do the same thing, we don't reach new customers. Do something different.
Steve Greenfield, your tip to reach more customers.
Well, I like what Don said, a few minutes ago, which is, go after declined service. You've already got your customers and they've been loyal. And for whatever reason, they've said no to something you've recommended. And I think dealers fall down typically, in a nice, practical, thoughtful way of following up with consumers to get them to say yes.
Don, your tip, how do we reach more customers?
It really comes down to making sure that sales department is still promoting that service department, saying that we work around your busy life. Whenever you need services, we've got so many ways to take care of you today, as opposed to, let me just schedule your appointment. You do a 30-second reel from a sales department going, we have the most outstanding pro service department that works around your busy life. Trust me, people pause. They're just not hearing that message with anybody else.
Stephen, your take, 30 seconds, your tip to reach more customers today.
Yeah, I would say in many cases, dealers are doing a lot of the things they should be doing. What they just need to be is more disciplined and more accountability. I mean, a lot of that stuff is very hard. It's easy to say, it's hard to execute. But when you execute it properly, you find you reach a lot more people. You're much more consistent in terms of your speaking and your messaging to these people. And I think that consistency and maximizing your reach are two things that would really help you get a hold of customers that currently you don't get a hold of because you're not disciplined enough about it.
The Leading Change panel today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable has incredible information as always. I want to thank our panelists today, Stephen Woessner, Don Andres, Steve Greenfield, Ed Roberts, Tully Williams, and of course, Brian Kramer. Thank you, gentlemen, for being part of the Leading Change panel today.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks for having us,
Thanks
Sarah.
for having us, Sarah.
Thank you.
Everyone, stay tuned. We've got more exciting segments coming up on the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
I'm out here today appraising and buying cars from total strangers using just two things, our AccuTrade mobile app and our Bluetooth OBD2 scanner. That's all we need in order to give them a 100% instant offer guaranteed by AccuTrade. So let's tell Maeve what her vehicle is worth and what we're willing to write you a check for.
Let's do it. No way!
Right?
No! I might want my check.
We can. That's all it takes.
Learn, network, and grow at the next Fixed Ops Roundtable pop-up event, happening live on October 3rd and 4th on the campus of Northwood University in Midland, Michigan. Please join us for this special event. Stay up to date with where we are headed next by following the Fixed Ops Roundtable on social media.
Finding a good mentor is easier said than done. Our next panel is here to shed light on what makes it work.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. This is the Young Technicians Panel. Superstars from throughout the country, a fan favorite. These are industry leaders who are paving the way. We have dealers from all over the country. I'm going to introduce Jeremy Stevens, our good friend with Bozard Ford Lincoln in St. Augustine. Jeremy, who do you have with you today?
Well, I have Josh and Nathan with me. They're on our mobile service team.
Excellent. Gentlemen, welcome. We've heard so much about the mobile team there at Bozard. Congratulations on all the success you're having. Shon Kingrey is with us from the Kaiser Automotive Group in beautiful Madison, Wisconsin. And Shon, who did you bring with you today?
I have Steve Bruna, Steve, who was with us during the last panel as well. Steve, who has yet still to buy the wedding ring, by the way, to throw it out there. And the reason I like to have Steve here, guys, Steve is one who has goals of becoming into management. As he says, he doesn't want to be a tech. He has thrown his hat in the ring. He wants the career path. So Steve has a good vision on that and has good ideas to talk from both sides.
And we're here to get all of your feedback, everybody, your vision on the career path and what's happening in our industry. Robert Migliaccio from Carter Myers Automotive is with us. Robert, welcome. And who do you have?
Hey, Ted, absolutely. How's everybody doing? I got Jackson here with me. I just brought him. He's a prime example of what we're doing here. Jackson is from our high school program, actually. He's still in high school, going through our apprentice program, and just thought it'd be a great fit for today's panel.
Great. Robert and Jackson, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Richard Lupo, our good friend from Appletree, Honda, and Acura, Asheville, North Carolina, is with us. Richard, who'd you bring?
I've got Zane with us and Cannon. Cannon's been with us before. Both of them started with us about a year ago, and along the same lines as what Sean's got, taking two different career paths, and we'll talk to them more about how they're progressing.
Great. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. And last but not least, we saved the best for last, Alan Bass from All American Ford Auto Group in Bergen County, New Jersey. Alan, welcome back to the roundtable. Who'd you bring?
Thank you very much, Ted. I brought Ray with us. Ray's been with us for about a year, and he's definitely doing a great job.
All right. Jeremy, I'm going to turn it over to you to ask the questions and to get things rolling today.
That sounds good. And I'm excited about having this young tech panel because I feel like there's a change in the industry where we're having a lot of younger people raise their hands and it's like the gearheads are coming back again. So it's exciting to see that. But I know a lot of dealerships don't see that. It's like they got blinders on and they're not seeing it. So we have a lot of excitement with the younger guys and a lot of it's not really challenges. It's just how we look at it. Because when I was growing up, I needed to make money because I got married young and I wanted to work flat rate, but not everybody's geared that way. And there's a lot of other things that I think we're missing. So I'm going to start off with this question, and we'll start with my group, and we can kind of work around if you want to, because we are talking to dealerships. We're talking to a whole group of people. As dealerships and employees, what do we need to do to attract people, technicians like y'all, and keep y'all engaged? So if y'all have some pointers for everybody, what do y'all think about that? we'll start with Josh and Nate.
You want to start?
Sure, I'll take her off. So I think really the biggest thing is company culture. I mean, plain and simple, it's an easy answer, but really the thing that brought me here and keeps me coming back every day with a smile on my face is really, I've made some of the best friends I've had in my life here, and that's one thing, but we also, aside from just going out off the clock and doing stuff, there's plenty of stuff to do around the shop. I mean, for one, we do have Ford's Garage, like right on campus. That's one thing. But, doing steak burns, we're having steak and chicken this Friday. Everybody's going to cook out. We rock the rock, throw big old parties in our parking lots and stuff like that. There's just plenty to do to keep us all together. I caught a huge bass a couple weeks ago in the pond out back. I'll tell you that for free. But it's just a great place to be,
I think for me personally, it's here. There's just go anywhere. I mean, you start at the bottom in quick lane. You can go off and you can go into what we call the technical development program, head over to either mobile or the main shop. And then if you want to go from there, you can even end up behind the scenes. I know a couple of people who've gone straight from TDP to either advisors, or one of them's currently shop foreman over at Quick Lane. So you can really just move wherever you want to go.
And Jeremy, can I have you give us a little bit of color at Bozard Ford Lincoln? The question's coming. How many technicians, how many bays between the main shop and the other shops and the Quick Lane, and how many young technicians, however you want to define that?
I did not pull that number, but I believe the count is 138 technicians between our Quick Lane, main shop, and we have, in mobile service, we have 39 bays. I believe we have 100 bays, counting all our bays. I may be off by one or two. Especially our tech development program is always growing and evolving. It's about to evolve again. So we've got some announcements coming out soon. And we're still looking for more.
And young techs, Jeremy, approximately?
Good gracious.
I
want to
mean,
say 80% of them.
Yeah, most of them are like our age, where it's like young 20s, late 20s. And then, there's a couple graybeards rocking around and keeping everybody educated. But as far as that, it's mostly young guys that are getting together, tearing it up.
Tearing it up.
Yeah. Shon Kingrey.
Graybeards, gotta love that one. That'll stick. Now, if you guys don't know behind the scenes, that's gonna stick. Listen, I'm gonna let Steve speak because everybody knows I can talk forever. But Steve, go ahead.
I think one thing is, if you're talking to a 20-year-old kid in an interview, right, and you ask them, where do you want to be in 5 years? And a 20-year-old kid's going to give you 3 different answers in 3 different weeks. But if you can have them say, well, would you want to be in a main shop position? Do you want to be, some higher position from where he's starting at? And it gives them something to look forward to. And even I've kind of thrown around the idea with Shon about even a lease incentive, because if you've got techs that are certain certification levels, you've got masters, you've got specialized, and you've got guys that are just coming in. If you can say, well, we'll give you $100 off your lease if you go and get certified in something. And if you want to be specialized, we'll give you $200 off your lease. And if you want to be a senior master, you'll get 4 or 5, because you're not going to have a ton of senior masters. But if you got a kid in Quick Lane that's one class away from getting $100 toward a lease, he's going to want to get that class, and he's going to want to get trained. So I think it's kind of like the dealer's got to throw some skin in it, but they got to be able to have the kids say, I want to go for that. Because if I got $200 off a car payment every month and I can drive around in a brand new Edge for $200 a month, yeah, of course. I got a brand new car. I know the product. I can drive the product. And, I think it gives an overall better view at the brand new cars that are coming through.
All American Ford over in premise, Alan. What do you think?
You know what? I like that idea about the lease. That's really cool. So I'm gonna give it right to Ray and let him give his insight.
So, I mean, when it comes to that question, I really do believe that like the biggest factor in all of that is management, because the way I started, I started right after high school, like right after I turned 18 and I was legally able to be a tech. I started working at shops here and there, and I worked for this one guy that was terrible, and he made me question if this is what I really wanted to do for my career. So with that, I sat down, processed, and I was like, you know what? No, this is what I like. This is what I want to keep trying. Let me look around. And then, I got hired here. And here, the management is amazing. Everyone's, it's like a big brotherhood here, big family. And everyone gets treated well. I'm blessed to have, Alan here, who is very helpful with everything, very understanding, even when I make mistakes, because, everyone makes mistakes. But also my supervisor, who I'm learning under, he helps out a lot as well. So I honestly think that like when it comes to new kids coming into this career, what's important is that they have a good, family behind them to help lead them and help guide them properly without, and trying to push him away, because that happens in a lot of situations where guys like that, they'll just make them question if this is what they want to do as a career, and then they drop it just because of that one guy.
The Apple Tree Group, Ken and Zane, let me cover it over to you and Richard.
So I'm going to throw it over to these guys. Both of them, just a quick background. Both of them started with us about a year ago. Zane came to us with very little experience and is now our number 2 express leader. And Cannon has completed his mentorship with our shop foreman, is now apprenticing with a master tech. So Zane, go ahead. Tell us about your experience at Apple Tree.
Yeah, my experience at Apple Tree has been great. It's very, it's very like rewarding, because the more you put into the company, the more they're going to put into you and take care of you. And once you get in here and start working on it, it's not as hard as you think it is. Because, you might be really stressed out coming into this, like I was, not knowing anything really about cars besides what my grandfather taught me. So, and there's many opportunities to grow here, whether you want to be management, go to main shop, be an advisor, be management, many different tests you can take. And there's always an opportunity to learn something more.
Ken?
I came straight out of college. I wanted to do this my whole life. I learned that. I think to get young technicians to come to dealerships, you have to find the young technicians in the field. You have to, go to the right locations and actually search for people that want to work in this field. And then the dealership also makes it a great place to work at. This place is very innovative, and they spend a lot of money on their techs to keep us here and invest in us in time and knowledge as well.
Thank you, guys. So that's what we're doing here at Apple Tree.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. And Richard, give us the approximately how many techs in your shop?
Between the Acura and the Honda store, probably 20 technicians, 20 flat rate technicians, another 10 or 11 express guys, a couple of used car techs as well. So it put us probably in the 35, I'd say, total technical staff. And when I got here a few years ago, we had to build this out, to create this pipeline to bring in younger, new talent. And our average tenure is at that time was over 20 years for our technicians, and had to create the pipeline and the culture to support bringing along the young guys, and it's paying its dividends in great numbers now.
Jackson and Robert over at CMA.
Well, what I think is important is really the people, because it depends on how you bring these young technicians in to start working on them. You can't go out and tell them that that's what they want to do and that's what they need to do. You can explain it to them, and they're like, yeah, that's exactly what I've been thinking. I want to get better at this. And it's really how you just pull them in and then teach them from there. It's the little things that work, like on Saturdays, when we work on Saturdays at lunchtime, Domino's, we get Domino's at lunch. And it's the little things, and it's just about the people you work with. You make lifelong connections, and you just make friends. It's fun to be at work. You like going to work, things like that.
I just need to add, we have more than pizza too, guys. Don't get me on that.
I was going to say, Marco's watching, so.
Food trucks. We got more than just pizza, but it's we supply the guys with lunch every Saturday. And like I said, Jackson's a great conversation piece to this. He's coming through high school still. He's in his senior year now. He's going to be going into pretty much finishing up his first year here with us. And, the trade schools are tremendous in what they provide to us. Obviously, with Jeremy and Ed Do at Beaux-Arts is phenomenal because they have it in-house. And that's kind of what we're trying to gear up for is get them excited about it young, bring them in, and start retaining them and keeping them. And ultimately what we're trying to all do here is grow our own and really kind of have them know the culture and the brand from the bottom up.
Jeremy, I'll let you ask the questions and you can direct them as well.
All right, that sounds good. So I know, Alan, what was your technician's name? I didn't get his name.
Ray.
Ray. I love what Ray said about, don't be I can't say the word on this, but but it's a great point.
It's the truth.
Because we talk about culture and stuff like that, and I think culture gets tossed around a little bit too much without details in it. To me, it's very gray. But let's think about the man, and I know you're all managers of these people, so I'm going to open it up. So what is it that you like about managers? Like, what are you looking for? Because when you do an interview, of course you want the job, but you got to make sure you connect with the manager. What Ray said is very true, but let's take that the opposite way. What are you looking for managers, like support, or what are you looking for in a manager or a leader?
I mean, for me personally, it's like you said, support, but also a manager who's encouraging. I mean, you don't want to kind of feel like you're held back by your leadership. You want them to kind of build a foundation with you. That way you have somewhere to go from there rather than just feel like you're stuck at the bottom. You have nowhere else to go. This is just where I am forever kind of feel.
I think for me, it's very much like a mentorship role model kind of thing. Getting hired on in the quick lane with Scott, I seen him as a very hardworking, driven person. And then I saw that when he got his promotion to, mobile ops. And then, sure enough, shortly thereafter, he interviewed me for the mobile position. And it was just a very much, I can see a lot of my work ethic in him. And basically, I can see where he's at. And if I just keep grinding and showing up every day, then eventually, hopefully I can aspire to that sort of position as well.
That's good.
Jeremy, I'll let you take it around the horn.
Yeah, how about you, Shon?
Steve, go ahead.
Oh man. What I look for is like just be honest about like questions that somebody's gonna ask. Like the tech that's coming in doesn't want to hear we got so much work, we don't know what to do with it. Mm-hmm. And then if the tech's gonna say, well, then can I get a 40-hour guarantee every week? And the manager says, well, like to me that says, I guess you're not confident enough in what you just told me to back it up with anything. And maybe I'm not saying, I have to have a 40-hour guarantee, but if you want to come and say, we got this much work, we're so busy, we're slammed, everybody says that. And that I think that's like the techs just want to see the managers holding themselves accountable to what they're telling them. Like if you can say, we always send guys to class, and then the guy gets hired and he says, well, when was the last time you've been to class? Huh? I haven't been to class in 6 years. They don't send me. And that kid's like, wow, all right. So he said they send people all the time. Well, yeah, not really. Like that's what the techs don't want to hear. They want you to just fall back on your own words and be able to back them up.
Alan? Ray?
I believe that like when it comes to management, what do you look for in proper management or a manager? It's encouragement primarily, that when you go in for that interview or you go in on your first day, that, as he said earlier, he is about everything he just talked about when you first met him for the first time. That encouraging aspect is there. That it's not just like, oh yeah, we have a lot of work, but it's also like, oh yeah, we're like a brotherhood here. We're like a family here. You do something wrong, we're not gonna scold you about it. We're gonna show you what you did wrong and help you on how to properly do it, how to properly go about it and to prevent that from happening again. And when that happens, that tech will see that and he'll feel confident enough to be doing things properly and not looking over his back every 5 seconds because he's scared or something like that. And, that tech will rise like a lot, and he'll tend to be one of the guys that, the staff and the management rely on a lot because he's doing that, but because they put that trust and confidence in him and that support, that he's able to give some of that confidence back and rise up because he feels confident in himself.
Good point. And Alan, I know you have a growing shop. How many techs between Hackensack and, let's say, Paramus?
I would probably say we're probably around 50 to 60 techs right now.
Okay. And you got a growing mobile operation as well.
Yes, the mobile operation is growing. Definitely growing. I think we're not sure how many trucks we have now. I think we have more coming.
That's what I hear. I like it. Okay. Richard, how about over at your place?
Well, I'll turn this over to Zane and to Cannon and let them tell you about what you guys think is important for management. Keep you here.
Well, I think a big thing is working here and like having a management, like what I look for in a manager is like accountability and acknowledgement. If I do something good or I've been doing good for a while, it's good to have, like, hey, you're doing a good job, or some kind of like reward system or something.
I like a manager that really believes in you and your ability. Sometimes they believe in you more than you believe in yourself. That really makes a big difference.
And also someone that's going to, like, if something happens, they're going to have your back. They're not just going to, like, throw you under the bus.
Yeah.
Well, they're technicians of very few words. Lots of actions and few words, but I think that they've been pretty happy here, guys, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And definitely seen progression in their career since the time that they've been here.
All right, Robert, what you got? Robert and Jackson.
So when it comes to management, I think you're really looking for a good leader, and like what he said earlier, somebody to encourage you. If you're starting out and you do something wrong or you do something right, you want them to say, hey, this is wrong, but you can do this next time. Or when you get something right, they can come up to you and be, great job, you got it right. And really, when it comes to being just a good leader, and getting them through stuff, leading them through stuff, going around the shop, asking them how they're doing, things like that,
That's pretty cool. So here's what I gather from all of that stuff. A lot of encouragement, and everything y'all said is absolutely free. So if you're a manager out there watching what these guys are telling you, you don't gotta buy pizza. They just want the encouragement and the support, to help them grow and stuff like that. So that's pretty awesome. Ted, you got anything else to add?
That career path, I've heard that come up a couple times now, Jeremy. I know that's important to everybody here on the screen. I think it's especially important at your organization because you've set the tone for career path. Jeremy, talk to us a little about that and the importance of doing that and how that's played into your long-term strategy as well.
So what is pretty cool, and y'all actually went through it. So you take it. You go ahead and answer that question. The career path. Y'all have lived it.
Right. Well, pretty much, yeah. Everyone wants to feel like they matter at the end of the day. Everyone wants to feel like they have like a future, and it's not just wake up every day, work on 10 cars, go to sleep, and wake up and do it the next, and not really go anywhere, So it's like you start in the quick lane and you you do your duty as the lube tech, and sure, you make a mistake here and there, but you know, everyone does, and you fix them, you learn from them, and you go forward, and then get a little bit more responsibility, you get a little bit more bigger of a job, and then, you know, you go through TDP and you learn and stuff like that. And then it's a very big culture of hire from within as opposed to be constantly scouring out. So with this size of a team, if, you know, a service writer moves on from their position, you know, techs are given that option, like, hey, do you want to go in front of the house? Or, you know, leadership with mobile being such a widely expanding operation, there's plenty of, I see so many opportunities to where, you know, I can come in and help with, you know, my own experience and, you know, my own drive, and see how big we as a team can grow it, instead of just, you know, Jeremy at the tippy top completely running the ship. Like it's very much a community effort.
So our TDP is our tech development program.
Right.
So you start in the quick lane. Once you graduate from that, you go to TDP, and we also have a subcategory of technician development program we call it the lightning lane, that gets them geared up for mobile service. That's kind of specialized on that, almost like a fast track program on that. And for that point, when you go on the mobile truck, they're assigned to a team lead there to give them the extra training, or they could choose to go in our used car pre-delivery, or they could go into a mentorship with one of the technicians. So what's cool about it, you have multiple channels and stuff, and that kind of gives you, because a lot of times you start as a quick lane and you may not like it, but there may be another position and you may switch gears and stuff. But mostly we were talking to our trainer on there, and he looked around the shop, and we have, I need to get the percentage right, but there's majority of our technicians came from our own tech development program.
One more question for the Bozar group, then I'll take it around. Rather than recruiting from the outside, does it send a message to the rest of the techs when you are growing from within, growing your own techs and doing that with, I guess you have that formal name of the development program there, but I've seen it where you got to start in quick lane and then you work your way into that main shop. I've seen that very much. So for the Bozar techs, that growing your own strategy.
It definitely does. Because have y'all referred anybody to work here?
I've tried. Yeah, I've been dying to get my little brother to come here because he needs a job. But he's like, oh, I don't want to work on cars. I'm like, bro, come on, just turn the wrench.
It's pretty cool in our staff meetings, because we develop our own people in the staff meetings. When we have a new hire, and if he's in my department, I have to give a reason why I hired this new hire. And it's pretty cool when you go around the room, no matter sales, parts, or service, they're always referred by another employee, or they used to be a customer of ours. So we can limit our amount of money we're spending on ads and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool how when you have that, you know, you want your friends and stuff to work with you also.
Yeah, that was one thing that sort of helped me get the job here. Like, I didn't really know him, but one of our mobile techs, Patrick Ness.
Yeah, I can't say his name.
Right. Sorry. Don't put me on those. But our friend Patrick had sold my little brother a pretty clapped out 30-year-old pickup truck. And he was just having that conversation. And I was looking for a job at the time. And I think the day he went and bought the truck, I was interviewing at like a Brakes for Less, like that's in St. Augustine. And he was like, "Oh no, you gotta go over here, put this guy's name down, and go see if you can get an interview here. Like, this is gonna be not, way more opportunities here."
Shon and Steve, your climate there in Wisconsin is a little bit different than St. Augustine. I know it's still sunny out now, but how does that career path weigh in?
Well, it's funny because Steve and I are sitting here talking during this, and it's, if you go back to our original interviews when I came to Madison, Ted, about the good news about the Kaiser Group is they've been here 100 years. There's a lot of 40-plus year employees here. And I didn't mention it. Steve mentioned it, the same thing we talked about. The advantage is we have a lot of 40-year employees. But that transition, as they're transitioning out, is there's going to be a gap there where the younger ones, and Steve, I'll use him as the exception, but there's going to be a gap and there's going to be a hole there that they probably weren't prepared to fill those holes right away. And it's going to go down we have monster growth, and Ted, I share those numbers with you. But probably for the foreseeable future, because there wasn't a clear defined career path for a couple of years, there'll be a hole in the gap there that you're going to miss. So you're going to unfortunately have to hire from without or outside, and still, yes, grow from within. But there's a fine line there.
Yeah. Robert, at Carter Myers, you really pride yourself on, overall the whole organization, not just one store, but on growing from within and, being part of the ESOP and so on. How does that career path enter into what you do there?
So it's exactly what we're doing, and that's why Jackson's here today on this panel with us, because we've invested in not only just our staff, but we've invested in the schools and the community around us in order to do that process and get them involved with it. Jackson doesn't live close to my dealership at all. The area of school that he's in is actually in a totally different district that we would even be a part of. But through our organization, through our networking and working with those schools, we fostered a relationship with the teacher, we fostered a relationship with the students, and we were able to gather, their top % of their student class in order to bring them into the school. So it's very instrumental in what we do. If you follow any of the CMA stuff online, Shon actually reached out to me because we made Automotive News. A lot of our stores are doing signing days, and we're treating it like it's, a sporting event in certain cases when we're finally bringing them on to full time with us and they've graduated into the shop. There's a full signing day, families are there, and it's a whole event as they kind of sign into signing their contract to work with us. And it's just small things like that and really just fostering those relationships. That's what we're all working towards, and what we're doing here is filling those gaps. Like Shon said, Richard's doing the same thing. Alan, Jeremy, we're trying to get ready for the next generation. We have to get them prepared. We're not ready, but we need to be ready. And this is kind of the best way to do it. We get a lot of turnstile with the guys that are there in the shop mentoring these guys. And ultimately, no matter how grumpy they are or how happy they are in the shop on the older level of it, they are willing to help and grow and teach these guys. It's amazing. So
I saw that signing day. Congratulations to you. That's a brilliant idea, Robert. So, Richard over at Apple Tree with Zane and Kenan.
What I would say is that developing the career path changed the interview process significantly for us as we're interviewing people to come on. We're able to talk to them and lay out a career path and the different options. Changes the whole interview process, changes the onboarding process, and you're setting the expectations right up front with them and the clear direction. Of course, we have to back that up with our actions as management. So that really changed it. And growing from within, definitely part of the culture now is these young guys and gals are doing their time in our quick service department. They are intermingled with some of those graveyard guys. And it is by the time that they're ready to graduate into the main shop, they're very familiar. The established technicians that have been here for a long time are very familiar with them, and it's something that they welcome them in. They're not outsiders coming in. They've already known them for a year or 2 years, and it makes for a very, very welcome, peaceful introduction into the shop. And it's very end up being very supportive of them coming in and being a part of the main line when they do that. So it's definitely changed the culture here at Apple Tree as far as getting this program, building it out and sticking to it and backing up what we say we're going to do as we onboard our next generation of technicians.
Alan, I'll bring it home to you gentlemen at All American, the importance of having a career path for your technicians, especially the young technicians.
Extremely important. So I'm not going to say what dealership I was at, but I was at another store. We hired an entire class. I think it was 30 guys. In 2 months, I was down to one guy. And I was management at the time. So now that we have a career path at All American, we go to different high schools, technical schools, colleges, bring the kids on. Like Ray, for instance, is with he's with one of our best guys in the auto group. He's learning transmissions, engines, You can install superchargers. That's the guy that he's working with. But I like to move the guys around. I don't want to just keep them with one person. I like to try to move them around to maybe another transmission guy, maybe an electrical guy, maybe an EV guy, to a mobile truck, put him on a mobile truck for a while. This way he finds what he wants to do and where he wants to go with his career path. I think that's extremely important.
Everybody, thank you so much, and congratulations to you on all the success you're having. All-American Ford in New Jersey, Alan, Bass, and Ray, thank you so much for sharing with us today. Richard and Zane and Cannon at Apple Tree in Asheville, North Carolina, thank you for sharing with us today. Robert, I think we have to come back and do something on that signing. I think that's a segment all in itself. Jackson, thank you for being here today. The team from Bozard Ford Lincoln, always enlightening to hear what's happening there. So thank you for all you do. And Shon, Kingrey, and Steve, thank you for being a big part of this as well. So everybody, young techs are a big part of our industry. It's the future. Join us at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. More ahead today on the show. And thanks to all involved today at the Young Tech panel here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you, Ted.
Mobilize.
From day one, my owner has treated me so well, like one of the family. When it was time for my first oil change, she checked out bgfindashop.com. Over 50,000 dealerships and shops use high-quality BG automotive products like MOA Oil Fortifier to help me run better, longer. When you maintain your car, it'll take care of you too. So visit bgfindashop.com. Their auto experts know which BG products will keep your car happy. Be good to your car with BG. Visit bgfindashop.com.
BG Experience provides a window into today's vehicle systems, including the engine, brake, driveline, and cooling system. You will learn about how each system functions, the challenges they face, and BG Products' preventative maintenance solutions to these challenges. BG Experience is used by automotive trade schools and service centers to educate students, technicians, and service advisors. The ability to see how individual components of complex vehicle systems interact in motion provides a more visceral understanding than older training methods. We partner with over 50,000 shops and service centers around the globe. BG Experience is an essential tool to engage and educate automotive professionals worldwide.
Get insight on the latest from Dynatron software in our next segment.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Our great friends from Dynatron Software are with us today. First time on the roundtable is Alex Keith and, of course, Trevor Shannon. Many of you will know from the roundtable. Gentlemen, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So, Trevor, you and I have had a lot of discussions, okay, on a lot of after dark shows at the roundtable, on the weekly Monday and Wednesday night shows, and on the roundtable itself. Great segment with Maureen last time. Trevor, you lead the product management side of it. Tell us a little bit about that, and introduce Alex, if you would, to the group.
Yeah, thank you, Ted. Trevor Shannon, I'm a product manager with Dynatron Software. I oversee our Price Smart solution, so that incorporates our software along with our coaching, our warranty filings, along with our workshops. Been with Dynatron going on 3 years. Yeah, so this is my third year with Dynatron, I believe. Started off with as a coach. That's where I got to meet my buddy Alex, who's joining us today. He's over on our coaching team, so he's one of the top-notch guys over there. So, Alex, you want to give your background and introduce yourself, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. Been in the automotive business probably over 15 years now. Kind of grew up in it. Dad was an FOD for 40 plus years, so I made the mistake of saying, I want to go to work with you today, Dad. And he said, you're going to learn all of it. So he had me do everything from washing cars and sweeping floors to helping the sales team out. And found a home at the Dynatron about almost 5 years ago now. As a Start Smart coach, got to meet great people like Trevor, help, kind of get them involved and see them grow into, doing great things with our company. And so currently right now, I still am in the Start Smart coach atmosphere, working with customers for 6 months of the program, kind of getting them adept to the tool and showing them the opportunity and helping them with their filings. But I am moving into an executive performance manager role, which is going to allow me to work with GMs, owners at a very higher level with all of our clients within Dynatron. So it's going to give me a lot of success in being able to work with all the teams under our client success division and just really get my hands ingrained in how we're going to get better, how we're going to show more value, and how we're going to continuously evolve.
And Alex, congratulations to you on the Fuel podcast. That's very much needed in our industry. And we've been following that. And, congratulations for bringing that to fruition. That's not an easy thing to do.
No, I appreciate that. That's something I guess I forgot to put that on to. Also hosting the Fuel podcast, but no, it's I love the conversations, and it's like you said, it's needed conversations within the industry, and giving people the ability to just talk about what's going on, and then be able to bring best practices out there. Communications is the most valuable thing we have out there right now.
Well, Alex, let me start with you because a lot of the people watching today in retail have heard about Dynatron software, maybe some of the general managers, executive partners as well. Most of them came up in the business. I know I did on the sales side. I know Brian Benstock said something funny recently. He said he would go to Honda meetings and they would talk about sales and he would be there, rah, and then they would talk about fixed operations and everybody, would leave the room. Okay, they wouldn't be there for that part of it. But now it seems that fixed operations has taken on a new importance, Alex. So how do you and how do the people at Dynatron get general managers comfortable discussing fixed ops if that's not what they're used to?
Absolutely. So the biggest thing is making things relatable to them. A lot of general managers don't feel comfortable talking about fixed ops because they don't fully understand it. They don't understand op codes. They don't understand repair orders and effective labor rate. So the first thing we do is we get them to understand they are the general manager. They need to be involved as much as possible in every aspect. But then we start making things more relatable to them in the conversations. Whereas a service manager may look at a repair ticket, understanding, did they use the right op code? Did they charge what they're supposed to charge? We kind of relate that back to the sales side. What are some things that are coming across the general manager's desk? The same way ROs are coming across the service manager's desk, and that's deals. So we make jokes about stock numbers and things of that nature. If you had a salesperson trying to use just one stock number for every deal, you're not going to let that happen. That relates to the LOPs, how the service manager can track his business better. Same thing with their deals. If you're going to allow a vehicle to be sold for $70,000, $70,000 is our price, but we're not going to go below 65. And then they try to push a deal across for 60,000. Who's approving that deal? Are you going to let that deal go through? It's the same thing with understanding compliance of price. So it's making things very relatable to them at a stage where it's what they're doing. We're just kind of bringing that to the highlight of the service side, and then just educating them on the value and understanding the correlation between effective labor rate and what they know, gross profit.
Trevor, I guess there are a lot of similarities between what happens on the variable sales side and on the fixed side.
For sure. And like Alex just said, bringing it into the terms they know, like he just said, gross profit. GMs know GP. They understand it. That's how they're pricing their cars. Service, we often talk effective labor rate, but that is ultimately what is calculating your GP. So if you can look at all of your business, all of your technician cost, and then say, I want to hold a gross profit percentage of 75%, you can actually back right into what does my effective labor rate need to be. And when you teach them that, then they're going to hold their managers accountable for that effective labor rate. Therefore, they're going to achieve their gross profit margins. Me and Alex the other day, we were kind of geeking out like we do sometimes, and he's working on this spreadsheet that is just, it's absolutely amazing. And it's taking the dealer's true data and backing all the way up to, Mr. General Manager, what do you want your service department gross profit to be? I want it to be this amount. Alex made the spreadsheet. He can plug it in there and he say, okay, for that amount, you need this effective labor rate. And it's mind blowing, and then when they get excited about it, wow, that's really achievable. I can do this. They're going, oh man, my next 20 group, I'm going to walk in there and be the hero. Here I hit my number. So, those kind of things, just really correlating it is your service department is a sales department. We're selling hours. It's no different than selling cars, and you can keep going further into it, even into the menu presentation. That's your F&I office. Customer comes into F&I, hey, do you want this extended warranty? Is the same thing that your service advisors doing when they're selling them that 60,000 mile service. So, just connecting those dots, I think really, it makes the GM more comfortable because now they're practicing what they know. So it's,
and Trevor, that's if I can, that inventory of hours, that's a perishable commodity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Some of the metrics that you mentioned could be intimidating to a general manager who came up on the sales side. They're all going to understand GP, gross profit, but ELR, I remember, Trevor, that used to be, I thought that was a band back in the 70s, Electric Light Orchestra. I didn't know what ELR meant. Okay. And a lot of times that can feel intimidating, can't it?
For sure. And Alex will tell you, speaking to a lot of GMs, a lot of them know to measure ELR, but when you ask them how it's calculated, oftentimes they don't know that calculation.
Yeah, they know it's a number. Yeah, they know it's a number, and then I always make a joke with a lot of my people after we start getting into the data and after they start seeing, kind of what we can do with it. I always make a joke and I'm like, hey guys, if you wake up tomorrow and forget how to spell ELR, just give me a call, and everybody gets a good chuckle out of it. But, it's again, getting them to understand base metrics that they can relate to, right? And that's cost, understanding cost, where's your cost going? And then how do we maximize the opportunity with effective labor rate? Some of the most intriguing conversations I'm having is where effective labor rate will go up. We'll see an increase of $15, $20, $30 in effective labor rate, but we won't see the metrics in labor gross profit. And the GM's like, where's the money at? And then we look at technicians, and then we look at cost, and then he starts to get an understanding of allocation, what he's doing, how he's doing it, and where the cost is. So that helps them to understand, just because you have an increase in effective labor rate, you got to look at efficiency of your technicians. You got to look at how you're running your store. And that really starts to open up. It helps them understand how to communicate with their service managers better, give them the ability to get inside of it. And I can tell you right now, if you're a general manager that does not have fixed ops background, the more you get involved, especially if you're with Dynatron, the more you're going to have, just get excited, like Trevor said, about getting into these numbers. Every single GM that I have that has a sales background has gotten more and more excited getting into these calls and using this data.
Yeah, because it takes what we know and it makes it new. And Trevor, we know in order to be successful in the dealership, we've got to get the leader or the leaders on board. Okay. And I guess that's one of the things I admire about Dynatron is you start at the top. Okay. And you understand where they're coming from. Trevor, what are some successful things you've done at Dynatron, best practices to help get GMs more involved in fixed ops? I know you've seen a lot of stores.
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, it really just connecting services, sales, and you start relating those what we're measuring in service, what is that equal in the sales department? And when you can get a GM involved and you start, something like work mix, most of them don't even understand what that is. But when we start showing them, how much profit they're losing by having this high paid tech do these low ELR services, it's eye opening to them. And many times that they'll focus in on that. And, again, the leaders are going to hold the managers accountable. So if you get that leader's buy-in and you could say, hey, we don't even need to change prices. Let's work on this work mix issue that you have here. And all of a sudden they correct that. And in 90 days, they see their gross profit go up by 4 or 5%. Now they trust you. You know, once you show them that you can get these results for them, they trust you. And it just makes those conversations easier and easier and easier every time you have those wins.
Alex, your thoughts on that as well?
Absolutely. I mean, best practice is getting them proud of their price. They are so scared to move price in some cases to not understand it. They're just looking from the customer standpoint. And, you know, we have to be profitable with what we do. So to get them to understand what we call the perfect pricing method, maximizing profitability and effective labor rate, but doing this with the least amount of negative impact to our customer base is a key aspect of it. You know, one of the best practices that I heard from Kevin Smith, our owner, you know, is like, hey, get on the lane 15 minutes a day, you know, and since I've started talking about that more, it's like, what do you see? Are they treating people like you'd want your sales team to treat people? Are they talking about things the way your F&I team should be talking about things as far as residual upsells and what the vehicles do for that day? But then training them and educating them on what to ask, what to look for. And again, just making it reputable. So I think the biggest best practice for me is just get out of your comfort zone. You know, understand your worth, understand your value. You're worth what you're charging and understanding where that's at.
And it makes a general manager more valuable in the industry as well when they have that grasp of fixed ops. Everybody who comes onto that service drive, every customer, Alex, is a buyer, okay? Unlike the sales department where only a percentage of them close. Right. You know, people are buying today on the drive, whether it's customer pay or warranty or, you know, what have you. But the opportunities are great. All right, Alex, let me come back to you. One more question. How do you help general managers understand value in the Dynatron product? You've talked to me about ROI, but elaborate on that if you would a little bit.
Well, I mean, it's showing them the money is number one. You know, like we said, yeah, we did talk about ROI. I mean, that's got to be the biggest thing that GMs look at. You know, our biggest thing, or my biggest thing as our company is concerned, is to not become an expense. But the value that we bring to the general manager is immediate understanding of where you're at with your business. I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations where they're like, hey, we need you to be 5 or 10% better than we were last year. And then by the time you get to the end of the year, they're just scrambling. Hey, just be better than last year. Well, we don't have to do that anymore. We can critique things. We can monitor things. But instant communication, GMs being able to go in and use some of the software to clearly establish goals. What is the expectation? And to monitor the progression of that goal. And if they're not making a good progression, being able to get his hands in there and look at what we're doing and how we're doing it. But being able to do things that would normally take general managers, as you know, they're pulled in 7 different ways multiple times. How can you do this within the first 5 minutes of your day? How can you get a full aspect of how you're trending in your business? Where exactly do you need to put your focus and have a conversation and do that within the first 5 minutes of your day?
And Trevor, our dealers on the Roundtable, I remember thinking back a couple of years ago, and Chris Saracino from the Kelly Automotive Group came to me and said, you know, since we got involved with Dynatron, he saw Les Silver on the show. He goes, I can't tell you, that's one of the best things we've ever done. And, you know, it's grown and grown and grown. So it's, you know, maybe for a while it's been the best kept secret, Trevor, but I think the word is out now about Dynatron.
Yeah, we are definitely no longer a secret. That was something we, you know, wanted to overcome, is we were known as the best kept secret in automotive. And over the last, you know, several years, we've just exploded. And it's our results speak for themselves. You know, we provide results, like Alex said, instant results. You can see those results. You know, you follow our practices, use our software, you'll see your numbers grow.
Trevor, I'll give you the last word. Here we are coming into fall at the end of the week, and fourth quarter is right behind that. A lot of dealers now start putting their plans together for next year, putting their forecasting. I know Les has done some segments for our Roundtable on that. He's great at that. Any advice, Trevor, for our audience now heading into the last part of 24 and looking ahead to 25?
Yeah, just have a plan. Have a plan, know what you want to do, know how you're going to do it. It's, you know, just like setting any other goal, you know, start with the big goal and then break those down into smaller goals that are going to help you achieve that big goal. And, you know, you talk about technician planning, you know, we do our forecasting based on technicians. We actually have a whole software suite called TechCF that really will produce your forecast for you for the whole year. And then every month it will show you, you know, exactly where you're tracking, where you're pacing. it's awesome. And you don't have to use our tool. For years and years, I did it in an Excel spreadsheet I built out. But you need a plan, and you got to follow that plan, and you got to measure the results and make sure you're reaching the goals that you set out for.
Everybody, Dynatron software has grown. It's so much more than it was even just a few years ago. I'm amazed at the growth and that the dealers who adopt Dynatron's ways, how successful they are. I want to congratulate Alex Keith, Trevor Shannon here today from Dynatron. Gentlemen, thank you, and congratulations on all the success you're having. And Alex, I'm going to follow that Fuel podcast, and here rooting for you to get the most out of fixed operations as possible.
Absolutely. Thank you again. It was a pleasure.
Yes. Thank you, Ted, for having us.
Gentlemen, fantastic information. If you want to find out more about Dynatron, visit Dynatronsoftware.com, Dynatronsoftware.com. These gentlemen are both active on social media. You'll find them there as well. And certainly a lot of advocates, a lot of dealer advocates here at the Roundtable. The team from Dynatron, everybody, here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Have you thought about selling parts outside your local market? Then you're going to want to listen in, because breaking local limitations in your parts department is easier than you think with e-commerce. Here's some quick tips to get started. We all see the automotive industry is rapidly evolving, and to be successful requires blending traditional wisdom with innovative thinking. Dealerships need to embrace e-commerce to stay competitive, and overcoming geographic limitations is the key to ensuring growth and success in your parts department in this digital age. First, focus on your potential geographic constraints. Local markets can limit retail sales, and relying solely on wholesale operations can be stifled by location and competition. For example, a small dealership in rural Kansas may have limited repair shops they can sell to, or a Detroit dealer in a densely populated area may face intense competition from larger, more established parts suppliers. By shifting to a more e-commerce centered approach, you can reach new clients outside your local market. Second, let's talk about the challenges of traditional methods of scaling. Relying solely on your local wholesale relationships and your dealership's in-person customer base create risks for your dealership's ability to stay competitive. The industry today increasingly favors agility and innovation, which traditional wholesale can't always provide. Adding an e-commerce strategy helps ensure your doors stay open and gives customers more access to purchase from you. Third, embracing e-commerce modernizes your sales strategy. E-commerce allows you to reach customers beyond your local market. Online sales also provide a seamless shopping experience by allowing customers to browse, compare, and purchase at any time. This in turn helps to increase customer satisfaction and fosters repeat business. By offering a digital avenue for parts sales, you're opening up new opportunities whether you're in a rural town or an urban metropolis. And finally, think of e-commerce as a tool for your dealership. Just like investing in high-tech machinery to keep your technicians more efficient, the cost of running an e-commerce platform is justified by its wide-reaching benefits. You need to invest in the right tool to help your parts department reach more customers, make shopping easier for them, and keep your business growing. In summary, your dealership can benefit by selling more parts online through modern, customer-friendly, and competitive solutions. To find out more about how your dealership can get started, visit revolutionparts.com today.